Chapter 2166. Whoosh. A beautifully made map of the territory of the Cold Sky Territory was unfolded, which detailed the distribution of the major cities in the Cold Sky Territory. The territories controlled by the 10 region lords were clearly marked out. Haekong stared at the map with his eyes full of divine light. In the end, he fiercely poked an area with his finger and said in a low voice, "Send a message to the sword fiend Dao Abyss. Ask him to seize the territory controlled by that old bear, Xuanning. So long as he's able to take over the territory, then I'll give it to him to control. Your Majesty, what if Tao Yuan of Sword Demon refuses? Since he has chosen to surrender, how can he not work hard for me? Go, he is a smart man and knows how to make a choice." Yes. Daming City. In the City Lord's mansion, when Jilin learned of the Black Python Region Lord's order, he felt the world spin before his eyes, and he almost fell. That old bear! How can anyone dare to provoke him? Region Lord Haekong is clearly sending Senior Dao Yuan to his death. Jilin was lost. He thought that Haekong Region Lord treated Lin Sun differently and thought that he could get the protection of Haekong Region Lord from now on so that he wouldn't have to worry about survival in the future. Who would have thought that this was not the case at all? "Senior, it's not good." Jilin found Lin Sun at the first time and told him the orders of Haekong Region Lord one by one with a bitter and anxious face. The territory controlled by Haekong Region Lord only occupied a small part of the territory of the Cold Sky Territory. The territory next to Haekong Region Lord was controlled by Xuanning Region Lord, one of the 10 major regional lords. Over the years, there had been more than one conflict between Haekong Region Lord and Xuanning Region Lord in order to compete for territory. The bloody battle was extremely tragic. But most of the time, Haekong Region Lord was at a disadvantage. In the past, there were more than 190 cities controlled by Haekong Region Lord, but now there were only 109 cities left. Those lost cities were almost annexed by the forces under Xuanning Region Lord. It was no exaggeration to say that among the 10 major regional lords, the forces under Haekong Region Lord and Xuanning Region Lord had already formed a deadly feud. In recent years, Region Lord Haekong had been trying to recover the lost territories, but he had been unable to achieve his wish, and this had become a sore point in his heart. Therefore, when Jilin received this order, he immediately realized that the situation wasn't good. After Jilin finished speaking of the reason, he couldn't help but say with a dejected expression, "Senior, we can't afford to offend Region Lord Haekong, nor can we afford to offend Region Lord Xuanning. In my opinion, we should flee." Lin Sun's black eyes flickered and he said, "Don't you think this is an opportunity?" Jilin was stunned. "Opportunity?" Lin Sun's eyes were gloomy. "Haekong wants to kill me with a borrowed knife in order to test my submission. If I die, although he may not be happy to see it, he certainly won't feel any pity. But what if I live?" Jilin smiled bitterly. "Alive? How is that possible? The forces under the command of Region Lord Xuanning are even more terrible. If we provoke them, it may be profitable in a short time, but in a long time, will Region Lord Xuanning let us go?" Lin Sun said seriously, "We are only responsible for capturing the city. If we really encounter a fatal danger, we will escape back to the territory of Region Lord Haekong. At that time, do you think Region Lord Haekong will sit back and do nothing?" Jilin hesitated, "But isn't it too risky?" Lin Sun smiled and said meaningfully, "If we don't do something, how can Region Lord Haekong be determined to protect us?" He added in his heart, "You, Region Lord Haekong, can't get rid of this responsibility. Senior, are you really confident?" Jilin took a deep breath and asked. Lin Sun got up, patted Jilin on the shoulder, and said, "Jilin, you are a talent. This is also the reason why I didn't kill you. These days, your performance is also good. No matter what you do, at least you didn't let me catch any evidence." When Lin Sun said this, Jilin was already sweating all over. Only then did he realize that during this period of time, his every move had long been under Lin Sun's attention. Now I can give you a chance. As long as you seize it, in the future, not only can you become a city lord, but also a region lord. It is not impossible. The key is whether you have enough courage. After Lin Sun finished speaking, Jilin trembled all over and was stunned. Region lord? Just by himself? If this was said by someone else, Jilin would have spat on that person's face. What a joke! He was a great saint, not even a quasi-emperor. How dare he think about the position of region lord? It was completely whimsical. But when these words came out from Lin Sun's mouth, it made Jilin's heart tremble, and he couldn't help but have a trace of unrealistic thoughts. He shook his head fiercely, as if trying to make himself sober up, and then he said carefully, "Senior, are you really not joking? Do you think I look like I'm joking?" Lin Sun looked serious. Jilin looked hesitant. "It's just that. I'm not sure. Can you give me some advice?" Lin Sun said, "Even if I tell you now, you won't believe it. Why don't you go to the territory of the Xuanning region with me? Of course, if you don't want to, I won't force you. Think about it first. If you make up your mind, we'll set off tomorrow morning." "Okay." Jilin hurriedly agreed. Until Jilin left, Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Where on earth did she go? Is it because I'm not famous enough now, so she doesn't know that I'm in the cold sky territory? Then let's go all out. At least let the name of Dao Yuan resound in the sky of the cold sky territory. The next morning, when Lin Sun woke up from meditation, Jilin, who had been sleepless all night, had already been waiting outside the hall. "Have you made up your mind?" Lin Sun stood up and walked out of the hall with a smile. Jilin took a deep breath and nodded. After going back yesterday, he struggled for a whole night. Finally, he couldn't resist the unrealistic ambition in his heart and made a decision. The next moment, Jilin took out a jade slip and handed it to Lin Sun. "Senior, look, this is the map of the forces under the control of the Xuanning region. The forces of the Xuanning region cover 249 cities, and there are 59 people in the quasi-emperor realm under his command. This is his core force, and also the most frightening. Among them, there are two people worth paying attention to. One is Liu Xian, and the other is Mu Qingyang. Both of them are Juing quasi-emperors. They are notorious in the entire cold sky territory, and the most terrifying. They are also the right-hand men of the Xuanning region." Hearing this, Lin Sun couldn't help but reveal a strange expression. Juing quasi-emperor? This was too rare. Looking at the whole world, they could be said to be rare. Who would have thought that there were such people under the command of the Xuanning region, and there were two of them? Thinking of this, Lin Sun couldn't help but ask, "Is there another quasi-emperor under the command of the Heikong region?" Jilin replied, "Yes, but there is only one, and his name is Lai Guang." Lin Sun replied, "Oh," and opened the jade slip that Jilin handed over. While reading, he said, "Continue. Last night, I analyzed that if we want to annex the cities under the control of the Xuanning region, the safest way is to attack from the periphery, and pick some soft persimmons to pinch first." Jilin had obviously done his homework. At this moment, he spoke with confidence and composure, and knew all kinds of information like the back of his hand. And this was also the reason why Lin Sun valued Jilin. Although this guy's combat strength was not good, he was resourceful and meticulous. Those trivial matters were handed to him, and he was guaranteed to be able to handle them beautifully. "Senior, in my opinion, we can start from Ruisang City first. This city is adjacent to the territory controlled by the Heikong region lord, and although the city lord Lan Jiao is a peerless saint king, without waiting for Jilin to finish, Lin Sun interrupted, "Let's do that." Jilin was stunned. He hadn't even finished analyzing the pros and cons. How could he make a decision? Lin Sun patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "I'm at ease if you're in charge." Jilin was an old man who had experienced countless bloodshed, and drifted in the darkness for many years. His temperament had long been honed to be extremely cold and tenacious. But at this moment, his heart was warm and his nose was sour. In the dark world, this feeling of being trusted was really too rare. Early in the morning, Lin Sun and Ji Lung left Daming City. In the evening, the two had already arrived at a dangerous mountain range 3,000 miles away from Rui Sang City. Woo woo woo, fierce, evil spirits steamed between the mountains and rivers, and the pungent smell of blood and decay filled the air. The mountain wind whistled, and it was as cold as a knife. On the peak of a mountain, Lin Sun stood with his hands behind his back and said, "The order of the dark world has collapsed and is in turmoil. Every day there are countless massacres. With the power of a saint, he can easily destroy a city, but why are people so obsessed with seizing cities?" He really did not understand. "Senior, if a city is destroyed, it can still be rebuilt. Only by occupying a city can you attract the strong who wandered into the dark world to join your side. With more people, you can harvest a steady stream of cultivation resources, and then your own force will continue to grow." Ji Lung said quickly, "Just like Rui Sang City, adjacent to the territory controlled by Region Lord Haikong, it is also one of the most bloody and turbulent areas. In just the last 1,000 years, it has been destroyed more than 50 times, and the city lord who occupied the city has also changed more than 100 times. But even so, after each battle, the city will be rebuilt from the ruins, and there will also be many strong people going there. Among these strong people, most of them are desperados. The purpose of going to Rui Sang City is very simple, because there will be frequent battles here. As long as you are strong enough, the more people you kill, the more spoils you will get. In short, it is to fight for wealth with your life. There are also some strong people who want to hone their cultivation. There are very few of them, but they are also the most feared, and they are called trial takers." Chapter 2167. Trial Taker. This was the first time Lin Sun had heard of such a person. Ji Lung continued, "Generally speaking, the trial takers are the direct descendants of the three dark magnates, and some are the descendants of sects from other worlds on the starry ancient path. These guys regard the dark world as a trial ground and kill without any scruples. They also have many life-saving means, which makes them the most difficult to deal with." Lin Sun finally understood. "Senior, although the 10 great domain lords of the domain of cold sky are extremely frightening, the one who can really influence and manipulate the situation in the domain of cold sky is the divine sunshine ancient sect," Ji Lung said quickly. "For example, the first domain lord of the domain of cold sky, Wind Massacre Demon Emperor, is an elder of the divine sunshine ancient sect and has great power. So if we encounter the trial takers from the divine sunshine ancient sect, we must not provoke them, or we will definitely cause a lot of trouble." Lin Sun did not comment on this. At the mention of the divine sunshine ancient sect, Lin Sun thought of Quasi-Emperor Ba Qi, and there was an uncontrollable killing intent in his heart. The truth of the tragedy of the Lin family was now revealed. Yun Qin Bai was just a pawn at the mercy of others, and the mastermind was Quasi-Emperor Ba Qi. And when the tragedy of the Lin family broke out, the forbidden power of order appeared, which made Lin Sun suspect that the divine sunshine ancient sect was also a dog of the former nameless supreme emperor. "Let's go." Without thinking any further, Lin Sun began to act. Ji Lung hurriedly caught up with him and couldn't help asking, "Senior, are we just going to kill our way there?" In his opinion, planning and preparation must be done in order to seize a city, and when necessary, it was necessary to find out the actual situation of the enemy first. But obviously, Lin Sun did not intend to do so at all. He said directly, "Speed is the most important thing in war. It's just a brilliant mulberry city. Let's just kill our way there." Ji Lung's lips twitched. Wasn't this too simple and crude? Not long after, the huge and majestic outline of brilliant Mulberry City appeared on the horizon. The setting sun bathed the entire city in a layer of blood-like red. The city gate was open, and many cultivators were entering and exiting. Each of them was extremely powerful and fierce. Senior, there is a beacon tower in Shark Mulberry City. If there is any danger, light the beacon tower, and the experts under Region Master Schwenning's command will rush over immediately. After they arrived here, Jiling's expression became serious, and he said swiftly, "In these past few years, Region Lord He Kong has sent out countless experts with the intention of recapturing Shark Mulberry City, yet all of them returned in failure in the end, and the reason is this beacon tower. This lowly one suggests that it's best if we can control this beacon first." Lin Sun spread his spiritual awareness and instantly covered the whole surging Mulberry City. After a little sensing, he said, "Is the beacon tower you mentioned built in the city governor's mansion?" Jiling nodded repeatedly, "Yes. Let's go." Lin Sun went straight to the city gate. On both sides of the city gate, there were two extremely fierce guards. When they saw Lin Sun appear, one of them shouted, "You look very unfamiliar, you must be new, you need to pay 5,000 Dao crystal to enter the city." Lin Sun walked forward as if he was unaware of it. Seeing that he was ignored, the guard's eyes flashed fiercely, and he suddenly grasped at Lin Sun with his palm. "How dare you break in by force? You are courting death." Bang! Before the guard's palm touched Lin Sun, he only felt black in front of him. His body seemed to be hit by a primordial bull. With a bang, he flew out fiercely, hit the city wall, embedded in the wall, and passed out. The other guard was shocked. When he was about to say something, he saw Lin Sun waving his sleeve. Bang! With a muffled sound, the guard was smashed into the ground like a wooden stake. Only his head was exposed, and he passed out with his eyes rolled. And Lin Sun had already disappeared in the city gate. Jiling stared blankly. Lin Sun really wanted to break in by force. He didn't dare to hesitate and quickly chased after him. Who is that guy? This method is too cruel. Is he here to seize the position of the city governor? Let's go and see the fun. Many strong people inside and outside the city gate were already shocked. When they saw this scene, they were all surprised but not shocked. Many people had already chased after him with the mentality of watching the fun. Because in the dark world, this kind of turbulence happened too frequently. City Governor's Mansion. Lan Jiao was sitting cross-legged in meditation. His skin was white and his appearance was elegant, but there was a lingering gloomy air between his eyebrows. As the city governor, he was famous for his exorbitant levy and insatiable greed. Since he became the city governor of Rue Mulberry City 6 years ago, the number of Tao gems collected by him every month had reached an astonishing 80 million. It should be known that the 4 cities controlled by Jiling, Nightmare, Flame Sin, Beidou, and Water Caltrop, could only collect 90 million Tao gems every month. It could be imagined how powerful Lan Jiao's means of plundering and exploiting Tao gems were. Only Lan Jiao himself knew that although he was a holy king with a strong foundation, he couldn't sit on the position of the city governor for too long. Rue Mulberry City was too turbulent. It was adjacent to the territory of the region Lord He Kong, and it was regarded as the disaster area of the war. Lan Jiao had done some statistics. In the past 1,000 years, on average, the city governor of Rue Mulberry City would meet with all kinds of accidents every 10 years. He would either be killed or become someone else's subordinate. Lan Jiao didn't dare to take this lightly. In the past 6 years, other than when he was collecting Tao gems, he almost never left his house and guarded the city governor's mansion. "You're Lan Jiao." Suddenly, an indifferent voice resounded and awakened Lan Jiao, who was meditating. He stood up and his body emitted a terrifying aura as he shouted, "Who is it?" As he spoke, he waved his hand and a dark blue divine flame swept out towards the beacon that was only 10 meters away from him. Lan Jiao had been very careful in the past 6 years since he became the city governor. Even if he was cultivating in seclusion, he would stay by the side of the beacon. In order to be able to light the beacon as soon as possible when danger suddenly came, he could get help from the strong subordinates of the region Lord Xuanning. But what caused the blue WYRM's expression to change was that the dark blue divine flame he released was actually extinguished without a sound before it could even reach him, and it was as if it was extinguished by a shapeless hand. Whoosh! Without hesitation, Lan Jiao moved to the void and escaped with all his strength. Lin Sun, who witnessed this scene, couldn't help showing a touch of surprise. However, he wasn't going to watch the blue serpent escape. Bang! In the next moment, the blue WYRM stumbled and fell from the sky, crashing onto the ground. It clutched its head and let out a pained groan as it saw stars. That feeling was as if he had run headfirst into an iron plate while he was madly fleeing. However, compared with this pain, what made Lan Jiao feel even more disappointed was that through this blow, he completely understood how terrible the opponent was. Lan Jiao directly lowered his head and knelt on the ground. "Senior, please show mercy. I admit defeat." When Jiling followed Lin Sun and saw this scene, his eyes were fixed on Lan Jiao again. In a short period of time, Lan Jiao performed an impeccable textbook reaction in the face of a sudden crisis. First, he wanted to light the beacon at the first time. Then, he chose to escape without hesitation. When his escape route was blocked, he immediately knelt on the ground and admitted defeat. Jiling was deeply impressed by Lan Jiao's reaction speed. There was no doubt that Lan Jiao's desire to survive was really extraordinary. "Just like that you admit defeat?" Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned. Lan Jiao said respectfully, "If you are not strong enough, you should know your limits. I'm not as good as you, but I still want to live. How dare I resist stubbornly? Whether you are here for the position of the city governor or for the wealth I have accumulated, you can take them all. This guy is too smart." Jiling couldn't help but say, "Senior, in my opinion, it's better to kill him directly." Lan Jiao's face changed slightly, and he said in a low voice, "Taoism Peer, we both make a living in the dark world. Why do you force me to do this?" Lin Sun looked down at him with a mysterious light in his eyes. "Don't be nervous. Since you admit defeat, I will give you a chance." Lan Jiao raised his head. When his eyes met Lin Sun's eyes, his mind suddenly shook violently as if the world was turned upside down. His mind became muddled. "Chance?" He looked confused. "Yes, from today on, you can not only survive but also continue to be the city governor of brilliant Mulberry City, if you obey me," Lin Sun said in a low voice. "Okay." Lan Jiao agreed. Boom. At this moment, the turbulent power in Lan Jiao's mind suddenly calmed down, and his eyes gradually became clear. But when he looked at Lin Sun, his eyes were filled with uncontrollable fear, and he said in a trembling voice, "Thank you for your mercy, Senior." "Now hand over the wealth you have plundered over the years," Lin Sun said. "Yes." Lan Jiao opened his mouth, and a blue crystal bead emerged. This was a storage bead that could be nurtured in one's body. Lin Sun picked it up and looked at it for a while. He couldn't help frowning. "You have been the city governor for 6 years, and you have only plundered 150 million Tao gems?" Lan Jiao said respectfully, "Senior, you may not know, but 80% of the Tao gems I receive every month need to be handed over to the Lord of Xuemeng City. The remaining 20% need to be used for various expenses. The Tao gems that can really be kept are less than 10%. This Lord of Xuemeng City is even darker than the Lord of Heifeng City," Jiling gasped. Lin Sun put away the storage bead and said, "I will inform you when I need you to do something." After saying that, he turned around and left. "Yes." Lan Jiao crouched on the ground, and he was as respectful as a humble and obedient servant. After leaving the city governor's mansion, Jiling couldn't help but ask, "Senior, what did you do to Lan Jiao just now? Why did he become so obedient?" Thinking of the scene just now, Jiling always felt that it was a little strange and abnormal, which made him panic. A little trick that targets the state of mind, called nightmare of fear, Lin Sun said casually. Lin Sun said casually without further explanation. But just the 4 words, nightmare of fear, made Ji Ling's imagination run wild. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became, and cold sweat broke out all over his body. Could it be that his state of mind had already been hit by this nightmare of fear without knowing it? Recently, there were a lot of complaints in the book review section. Goldfish felt that it was necessary to explain that there were 2 updates at the beginning of the month, and 2 more updates in the middle of the month. She thought that she had been working very hard to write. Moreover, this Friday would be the 3rd consecutive day. Therefore, it was understandable that the old fans were anxious when catching up with the updates, but some of the old fans should not be malicious. Chapter 2168. Those who followed them to the Castellan's mansion to watch the fun were disappointed to find that the expected fierce battle did not break out. In just a moment, the 2 who rushed into the Castellan's mansion came out. This was undoubtedly a disappointment. But only Ji Ling knew that as long as the blue flood dragon didn't die, Ruisong City would be controlled by Daoyuan from now on. Don't worry, I won't use the nightmare of fear on you. Walking out of Ruisong City, Lin Sun glanced at Ji Ling, who was distracted and couldn't help but feel a little funny. This guy was obviously frightened by the scene just now. Ji Ling smiled embarrassedly, but he was actually relieved in his heart. As a practitioner, the most taboo thing to do was to have problems in the state of mind. But the nightmare of fear could actually affect the state of mind. This kind of secret method was undoubtedly too horrible. In fact, the nightmare of fear was indeed a wonderful Taoism, which came from the big original Heart Sutra taught by Ruosu, the 3rd senior sister. This inheritance was regarded as one of the 9 great inheritances of Fang Siyuan Mountain, just like the fighting saint method of the eldest senior brother and the everlasting leakless of the 49th senior brother. Different from other inheritances, the big original Heart Sutra was extremely obscure, and there were many mysteries about the state of mind in it. With this inheritance, Ruosu embarked on a road of mind refining, which was different from other practitioners in the world. Almost all the Taoism recorded in this scripture was aimed at the state of mind of practitioners. For example, the nightmare of fear could sneak into the opponent's state of mind like a shadow brand, making the opponent feel endless fear when facing the caster. In addition, there was also the big dream of autumn, which could make the practitioner fall into a deep sleep and never wake up again. There was the heart-killing sword, the original heart seal, and in a word, these wonderful methods aimed at the state of mind often had incredible power. They could kill people invisibly and were impossible to guard against. It's still early. Which city should we go to next? Lin Sun asked. Ji Ling answered without hesitation, Rock City. Before the action, Ji Ling had made all kinds of plans and preparations, and also finalized the route of action and the target to be conquered. Okay. Lin Sun nodded. 2 hours later, Lin Sun arrived at Rock City. The master of this city was called Lei Zhong, and he was a first heaven quasi-emperor. Among the many cities that the Xuanning region master controlled, Lei Zhong's strength was considered extraordinary. However, in just a moment, Lei Chong directly knelt down in front of Lin Sun, who had suddenly appeared. His mind was shrouded by the nightmare of fear and covered with a layer of shadow. Up until Lin Sun and Ji Ling left, no one noticed that Rock City, a city in the territory of the Xuanning region, had already fallen. Who's the next target? Scarlet City. Let's go. Lin Sun didn't stop. Presently, he wouldn't even fear the appearance of some Emperor realm figures, let alone capturing some cities. It was as easy as blowing off dust. After a whole day, the 9 cities in the territory of the Xuanning region, which were close to the Heikong region, fell into Lin Sun's hands silently one after another. From the beginning until the end, the outside world was completely unaware, and it didn't even cause much commotion. It wasn't until late at night that Lin Sun felt a little tired. It wasn't because of the battle, but because the journey was too long. The 9 cities that he conquered were located in different territories and were far away from each other. Dealing with enemies could be done in an instant, but rushing all the way was a rather torturous thing. Let's rest for a while, we'll act tomorrow morning. On a mountain peak, Lin soon casually set up a large formation and began to meditate. Ji-ling sat silently at the side, his eyes absent-minded. Before he left today, his heart was filled with confusion and anxiety. Even though he had finally decided to act with Lin Sun, he didn't have the slightest confidence. How could the Xuanning region master be so easily provoked? However, after a whole day his heart was already a little numb from the shock. The methods that Lin Sun displayed were too terrifying, and he still couldn't imagine how there could be such a powerful person in this world. In an instant, he could suppress the lord of a city, make him feel fear, and make him kneel and submit. Such methods were even more terrifying than the legendary ancient demons. What made Ji-ling feel the most ridiculous was that after one day, a whole 9 cities fell, but it didn't cause any movement or disturbance. If this continued, when the Xuanning region master reacted, how many cities would be left in his territory that hadn't fallen? At the thought of this, Ji-ling's heart trembled. The means that Lin Sun showed made him suddenly realize one thing. If Lin Sun used this method to invade the territory of the Heikong region master, how could the Heikong region master notice it? The more he thought about it, the more he was in awe of Lin Sun. Who on earth was this senior? Let's go. At the break of dawn, Lin Sun got up from his meditation. After a night of thinking, when Ji-ling looked at Lin Sun again, there was a touch of awe in his eyes that he didn't even notice. 7 days passed in a hurry. It's almost time for us to go back. When Lin Sun said this, Ji-ling breathed a long sigh of relief and nodded repeatedly. Yes, it's time to go back. In these 7 days, he followed Lin Sun, traveling day and night, attacking different cities almost non-stop, successively conquering one city after another. Until now, in the territory controlled by the Xuanning region master, there were a total of 54 cities that had fallen. The city lords were suppressed by Lin Sun and completely surrendered. 7 days, 54 cities. This number made people tremble when they thought about it. Ji-ling couldn't help but suspect that when the Xuanning region master noticed such a big change, he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. If the Heikong region master knew that all of a sudden 54 city lords chose to surrender to him, how happy would he be? Lin Sun asked. Ji-ling was stunned and said, "Of course he would be very happy, but I doubt whether the Heikong region master would really dare to send people to take over these cities. After all, when the Xuanning region master realizes it, he will definitely be furious and blame it on the Heikong region master." Lin Sun laughed. "This is not our business. Let's go." Ji-ling was startled, and suddenly an uncontrollable thought surged in his heart. Senior Dao Yuan did this. Was he planning to trap the Heikong region master? With a hiss, Ji-ling gasped. If that was the case, it would be too terrible. On the day when Lin Sun and Ji-ling left, there was a sudden great turmoil in the territory controlled by the Xuanning region master. Lan Jiao, the city lord of brilliant Mulberry City, announces that he is willing to listen to the command of Sword Devil Dao Yuan and surrender to the Heikong region master. Lei Zhong, the city lord of Rock City, announces that he is willing to listen to the command of Sword Devil Dao Yuan and surrender to the Heikong region master. Fei Lingzhen, the city lord of Nether Light City, announces that Dragonbone City, one after another, explosive news, like a hurricane, swept over the vast territory controlled by the Xuanning region master. For a time, this territory was in turmoil, and countless uproars sounded. Who is Sword Devil Dao Yuan? How can he have such an incredible means to make so many cities choose to betray the Xuanning region master in one day? Oh my God, are those city lords crazy? It's not that those city lords are crazy. This is clearly an attack by the Heikong region master. He intends to completely shed all pretenses with the Xuanning region master. In the next period of time, I'm afraid an unpredictable bloody massacre will take place between the forces controlled by the two region masters. Sword Devil Dao Yuan? How can an unknown guy have such great ability? He is obviously a puppet, and the mastermind behind the scenes is definitely the Heikong region master who is hiding in the dark. Tianwu Mountain. The evil Emperor Heikong, who was cultivating in the hall, suddenly opened his eyes and asked, Lai Guang, 7 days have passed. Is there still no news from Sword Devil Dao Yuan? Outside the hall, a figure that seemed to be bathed in a waterfall of lightning appeared out of thin air, and he said in a deep voice, No, Lord. According to what I see, this person has probably escaped. The evil Emperor Heikong frowned, and his eyes flickered with a cold light, and he said, Escaped? If that's really the case, then I'm too disappointed in him. Lord, I just received news that 54 city lords in the territory of the Shui Kong region master have expressed their submission to you. Suddenly, a voice filled with ecstasy resounded outside the hall, and then an old servant rushed into the hall joyfully with a face full of excitement. What? The Heikong region master was stunned, and he suddenly stood up. Say that again. The old servant took a deep breath, restrained the excitement in his heart, and repeated the news he just received. 54 cities are pledging allegiance to him? Outside the hall, the man called Lai Guang, who was bathed in lightning, was also stunned. His eyes flickered, and he almost didn't dare believe his ears. In the territory of the Xuanning region master, there were only a total of 249 cities under his control. Now, a fifth of the cities had suddenly chosen to betray and submit to the Heikong region master. This was undoubtedly unbelievable. It was like a pie falling from the sky. When he finally confirmed that the news was true, the evil Emperor Heikong couldn't help but laugh loudly. Sword Demon Dao Abyss. What a Sword Demon Dao Abyss! I didn't expect that you would give me such a big surprise in just 7 days. Even as an emperor, when he found out that over 50 city lords in his enemy's territory had chosen to submit to him, the evil Emperor Heikong couldn't help but feel elated and extremely happy. Lord, the 54 cities have betrayed us together. The Xuanning region master will definitely be furious, and he might point the spear at you. Are we really going to shed all pretense of cordiality with him and take over these 54 cities? Lai Guang spoke in a low voice outside the hall. His words caused the evil Emperor Heikong to be stunned, and he gradually calmed down from the ecstasy he had fallen into. He frowned and said, 54 city lords have chosen to submit. If I refuse, wouldn't I disappoint them? In the future, who would dare to submit to me? But if I accept it, I'll have to shed all pretense of cordiality with that old bear, Xuanning, and an all-out conflict might break out. What a headache! Chapter 2169. Master, back then we controlled a total of 193 cities, but now there are only 109 left. Suddenly, the old servant gritted his teeth and said, Those cities were all taken away by that old bear, Shuiyan. How can we not take revenge for such a great enmity? Right now, the Sword Demon Dao Yuan has performed outstandingly and helped Master take back 54 cities in one go. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If we refuse, not only will we disappoint those city lords who have expressed their allegiance, but we will also disappoint an extraordinary figure like the Sword Demon Dao Yuan. His words were impassioned. However, Lai Guang frowned and said, What kind of person is that Sword Demon Dao Yuan? We have never seen him before. Who knows what he is doing now? The old servant said angrily, Lord Lai Guang, the Sword Demon Dao Yuan has completely offended the Shui Yen domain lord. Isn't this enough to show his loyalty to Master? Enough. The Black Kong evil emperor waved his hand and interrupted. I have my own opinion on this matter. You don't have to argue anymore. Lai Guang and the old servant looked over at the same time, as if they wanted to see what kind of decision the Black Kong Evil Emperor would make in the face of such an unexpected situation. The Black Kong Evil Emperor said, "Where is the sword demon Dao Yuan? Why hasn't he come to see me?" The old servant and Lai Guang were stunned. Only then did they suddenly remember. That's right, why hasn't the sword demon Dao Yuan come to ask for credit after doing such a shocking thing? The Hei Kong Evil Emperor revealed a wisp of a cold and fierce expression. This kid silently took down 54 cities in 7 days. Logically speaking, he should have come to pay me a visit as soon as possible. Yet now there's no trace of him. Could it be that he's blaming me for using him as a tool? The old servant hurriedly said, "It's possible. An outstanding expert like the sword demon Dao Yuan must be extremely conceited and proud. It is understandable that he would take this opportunity to express his dissatisfaction with Master. However, this old servant believes that with Master's methods, he will definitely be able to completely lower his head and obediently serve you." The Black Kong Evil Emperor's expression eased up a lot and he said, "Forget it, he has done a great job this time, so I will not argue with him." But, when he spoke up to this point, his eyes revealed a wisp of coldness. "Since these cities were seized by him, then I'll bestow them to him. Let's see if he has the ability to firmly control these cities." The old servant was stunned. This, Lai Guang laughed, "Master is wise. That sword demon Dao Abyss has worked hard and performed a great service. It is only right that these cities be given to him to manage." He had long felt that something was amiss. Now, he suddenly understood. Sword demon Dao Yuan's actions seemed to be giving his master a huge gift. But at the same time, it was equivalent to completely pissing off the Blood Carnage Domain Master, and the Blood Carnage Domain Master would only vent his hatred on the Lord. His Lord's current actions were equivalent to pushing this calamity to the sword demon Dao Yuan. At that time, even if the Blood Carnage Domain Master killed the lords of the 54 cities, the sword demon Dao Yuan would be the one to blame. But with the sword demon Dao Yuan's strength, how can he be a match for the Blood Carnage Domain Master? The old servant couldn't help but ask. The Heikong Evil Emperor's eyes flashed as he sneered. He's quite capable to be able to take down 54 cities in a short 7 days. Let's first let him face the wrath of the Blood Carnage Domain Master. If he really can't, I don't mind lending him a hand. Master is wise. Lai Guang couldn't help but praise and agree. In his opinion, his lord's actions were undoubtedly shrewd and thoughtful. If the sword demon Dao Yuan thought that this would be enough to provoke his lord into a fight with the Blood Carnage Domain Master, then he was gravely mistaken. At the very least, the sword demon Dao Yuan would be the first to suffer. The Black Kong Evil Emperor laughed. This little thing wants to use this opportunity to scheme against me. His mind is ruthless. This time, I want to see what other tricks he can play. The old servant was stunned. Master, are you saying that you have already guessed that the sword demon Dao Yuan's actions this time are harboring evil intentions? Only now do you understand? This is what you call being blinded by greed and being blinded by greed. Lai Guang's words were full of sarcasm. The old servant broke out in a cold sweat and didn't dare to say more. He didn't expect that there were so many hidden dangers behind such a great news. The Black Kong Evil Emperor waved his hand and said, "Go and announce my decision to the outside world. Remember, you must let the old bear know that the sword demon Dao Yuan is the culprit. You said that the Black Kong Domain Master announced to the outside world that he had rewarded those cities to me." When he heard the news, Lin Sun couldn't help but be surprised. At present, he didn't return to Dawing City, but waited in Ruisong City. This was the territory of the Blood Carnage Domain Master, but it was adjacent to the territory of the Black Kong Domain Master. He could return to Dawing City in the shortest time at any time. Yes. Jiling frowned. It's over. Who would have thought that the Black Kong Domain Master would make such a decision in the face of such a big gift? Lin soon didn't take it seriously and said with a smile, "This old guy obviously realized that something was wrong. Perhaps he had seen through my intentions. He's not as stupid as I thought." Jiling's body stiffened and his expression changed. "Senior, did you really intend to use this matter to provoke a battle between the Blood Carnage Domain Master and the Black Kong Domain Master from the beginning? What do you think?" Lin Sun asked in return. Jiling immediately understood and his heart churned. He couldn't imagine where the Dao Yuan senior in front of him got the courage to do such a thing. Wasn't he worried that he would be killed by the Blood Carnage Domain Master or the Black Kong Domain Master if he was careless? "Help me send a message to the 54 City Masters. Let them lead their forces to the territory of the Black Kong Domain Master." Lin Sun made a decision. Now, the 54 City Masters who had expressed their allegiance had already gathered in Ruisong City with their subordinates, waiting for Lin Sun's command. Jiling was stunned. "Senior, don't you want those cities?" "I don't care about this kind of hot potato." Lin Sun's eyes were deep. "Old Black Kong wants to take advantage of me but doesn't want to put in the effort. How can this be? I am very loyal to him." Jiling almost suspected that he had misheard. How could he be loyal to the Black Kong Domain Master when he had dug such a big hole for him? Lin Sun waved his hand. "Go. After this matter is done, we still have to do something to express our loyalty. At the very least, we have to let the world understand that I, Dao Yuan, wholeheartedly want to expand the territory of the Black Kong Domain Master." Not long after, the 54 City Masters who had received the order led their subordinates to the territory of the Black Kong Domain Master. "Old Black Kong, you can't get rid of this blame." On the city wall, Lin Sun watched the City Masters leave. Then, he smiled and turned to leave. "Jiling, make a plan. We will continue to attack the cities in the territory of the Blood Carnage Domain Master. This time, I only have one request. When we choose the target, we have to catch him off guard and make it impossible for him to determine which city we will attack next." "Aren't we going to seize the cities?" Jiling couldn't help but ask. "Yes, the Black Kong Domain Master doesn't like cities. What we need to do is to set fire to the territory of the Blood Carnage Domain Master and prove how loyal we, the subordinates of the Black Kong Domain Master, are." Loyal and devoted again, of course. Jiling didn't say this out loud. He only dared to mutter in his heart. The Blood Carnage Domain Master received the news faster than the Black Kong Domain Master. After all, this had happened in his territory. 54 cities. All of them had betrayed him. This sudden change caused the Blood Carnage Domain Master to immediately fall into a rage. Uncontrollable killing intent surged in his heart. The Blood Carnage Domain Master, whose Dao name was Demon Emperor Blood Carnage, was slightly stronger than the Black Kong Domain Master. He was cold, ruthless, and incomparably bloodthirsty. It was rumored that he was a descendant of the primordial giant bear lineage. He was extremely strong and his bloodline talent was astounding. He was over 10 feet tall, and his majestic and muscular body seemed to be made of bronze liquid. Monstrous emperor aura surged from him, and when his eyes opened and closed, they were filled with extremely violent divine light. That old bastard Black Kong must be tired of living. The Blood Carnage Domain Master roared, his eyes red. "Lu Xian, Mu Qingyang, take your men and set out with me. First, we'll destroy those traitors, then we'll settle the score with that old man Black Kong." "Yes. Yes." For a time, a portion of the 59 Quasi-Emperor generals under the Blood Carnage Domain Master's command stayed behind to guard the base, while the other 40 moved out with the Blood Carnage Domain Master. However, when they arrived at the cities controlled by the traitors with murderous intent, they discovered that the traitors had already left. They searched one city after another, but without exception, there was no trace of the traitors. Those bastards fled rather quickly. Unable to find the traitors, the Blood Carnage Domain Master had nowhere to vent his anger. His expression was very ugly. He gritted his teeth and said, Let's go and settle the score with that old man Black Kong. Master, be careful of any trick. Lu Xian could not help but advise. He looked like a handsome and elegant gentleman, but he was a quasi-emperor Zhu Yan, who had killed countless people and whose hands were stained with blood. He had always been regarded as the Blood Carnage Domain Master's right-hand man. What do you mean? The Blood Carnage Domain Master frowned. Lu Xian pondered and said, Right now, we only know that these things were done by someone called the Sword Demon Dao Abyss. We still don't know if this was the Black Kong Domain Master's order. The Blood Carnage Domain Master said impatiently, Nonsense. Without the old man Black Kong's support, how would the Sword Demon Dao Abyss have the guts to do this? Master is right. However, if old man Heikong is really behind this matter, it proves that old man Heikong has definitely made sufficient preparations and arranged all kinds of method. If we rashly charge over and fall into old man Heikong's trap, before Lu Xian could finish, the Blood Carnage Domain Master had already understood. He frowned and his expression became uncertain. Chapter 2170. Right when Region Lord Xuanning was hesitating, someone hurriedly came to report. My lord, I've just obtained news that Region Lord Heikong has announced to the outside world that the 54 cities controlled by those traitors will be handed over to the Sword Devil Dao Abyss. The Region Lord was stunned at first, then he laughed angrily. That damned old man Heikong, does he really think that those cities already belong to him? He was really angry. In one day, 54 city masters betrayed and surrendered to the Region Lord Heikong. This was not the end. Now the Region Lord Heikong directly announced that the Sword Demon Dao Abyss would take over these cities. This, he clearly didn't put him in his eyes. Lu Xian quickly said, My lord, I think that the more arrogant the other party is, the more we can't be careless. At this time, we should understand the situation before making a decision. What do you think we should do? The Region Lord's face was gloomy. Lu Xian muttered, The traitors of the 54 cities all claimed to obey the orders of the Sword Demon Dao Abyss and expressed their allegiance to the old man Heikong. Now, the old man Heikong announced that our 54 cities will be handed over to the Sword Demon Dao Abyss. There is no doubt that the Sword Demon Dao Abyss is a key figure. As long as we capture him, we may be able to find out what the old man Heikong is planning. After listening, the Region Lord calmed down. His scarlet eyes flashed with a terrifying light. The Sword Demon Dao Abyss? Is a puppet-like character really so important? In his opinion, the Sword Demon Dao Abyss was simply a pretense that the Region Lord Heikong used. Whether it is important or not, we will know when we capture him. Lu Xian said in a deep voice. Didn't the old man Heikong say to let him take charge of the 54 cities? I want to see if he dares to do so. The Region Lord revealed undisguised killing intent. Well, I will leave this matter to you. I only have one request. If he is alive, I want to see him. If he is dead, I want to see his corpse. Yes. Lu Xian accepted the order. Mu Qingyang. The Region Lord looked at a silver-robed woman on the side. You are responsible for investigating the situation with the old man Heikong. Yes. The silver-robed woman nodded. Her appearance was outstanding, and she was as cold and arrogant as snow. Just like Lu Xian, she had the resources of a peak quasi-emperor, and she was regarded as the right-hand man of the Xuanning Region Master. Let's begin. Don't make me wait too long. Region Master Xuanning waved his hand. His eyes were cold. He could not swallow this insult. Someone had to pay the price. On this day, all the forces in the territory controlled by the Xuanning Region Master were mobilized. With the peak quasi-emperor Lu Xian as the leader, they put in all their efforts to capture the Sword Demon Dao Yuan. For a time, the name Sword Devil Dao Abyss was like a comet that flickered in the territory of Region Lord Xuanning, and it drew the attention and discussion of countless people. Since when did the Heikong evil emperor have such a powerful subordinate? A single person managed to make 54 city lords submit to him in a single day. This is too terrifying. How did he do it? The Xuanning region master is completely enraged. A great war is about to break out. I'm afraid the sword demon Dao Abyss will be the first target. At the same time, in the territory of Region Lord Heikong, the incident of the sword demon Dao Abyss caused a great uproar. No matter what the discussion was, the name Sword Demon Dao Abyss was completely popular. It was famous in the territories controlled by the two region lords. Even in the territories controlled by the other region lords of the domain of Cold Sky, some rumors about the Sword Demon Dao Abyss began to appear. This damn thing! In the main hall of Tianwu Mountain, Region Lord Heikong's face was gloomy. He had just learned that the 54 city lords had fled to his territory with a group of subordinates. The most disgusting thing was that if he refused, it was equivalent to completely freezing the hearts of these people who had submitted to him. However, if he accepted it, it was equivalent to accepting a hot potato. What would the Xuanning region master think if he knew about this? I sent that kid to take over the 54 cities, but he actually dared to go against me and threw those traitors to me. Region Lord Heikong was so angry that he gritted his teeth. This is great. His pants are smeared with yellow mud. Even if it's not sh*t, it's sh*t. That old bear Xuanning will definitely not let it go. Lai Guang said in a cold voice, "My lord, it can be concluded that this sword demon Dao Abyss has no intention of submitting to you. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to go against you like this. It can only be said that from the beginning, this boy has ulterior motives. Don't blame me for being impolite if he plays dirty tricks with me." Taking a deep breath, Region Lord Heikong's eyes flashed with a touch of ruthlessness. He said, "Spread the news to the outside world that all this is the action of Sword Demon Dao Abyss." Before he finished speaking, Lai Guang's face changed and he said, "My lord, you must not. Earlier, you once announced to the outside world that you would reward those 54 cities to the Sword Demon Dao Abyss. Now, no matter if it's our territory or the territory of Region Lord Xuanning, everyone has already determined that the Sword Demon Dao Abyss is your subordinate. If you change your attitude towards him now, I'm afraid it will cause some bad effects." Region Lord Heikong was startled and suddenly realized the problem. Indeed, if he dared to do this now, it would inevitably cause a lot of misunderstanding. Because in the eyes of the world, Sword Demon Dao Abyss's outstanding achievements in battle were brilliant, and he alone seized 54 cities for Region Lord Heikong. At this time, if he wanted to cut ties and abandon Sword Demon Dao Abyss, how would the world view him, Region Lord Heikong? In the future, who would dare to serve him loyally? Moreover, would Region Lord Xuanning believe that he wanted to cut ties at this time? He wouldn't. Those 54 city lords had already fled to his territory now, and no matter what he did, Region Lord Xuanning would definitely not let it go. Thinking up to here, Region Lord Heikong's face was gloomy, and his chest felt stuffy as he said, "So, I can only pinch my nose and accept it?" Lai Guang said in a low voice, "My lord, this isn't a bad thing. Sword Demon Dao Abyss is acting under your banner, and the more outstanding his performance is, the more beneficial it is for you, isn't it?" Region Lord Heikong snorted coldly. "When that old bear, Xuanning, goes crazy, won't it still be me who makes a move?" Lai Guang said, "My lord, with your strength, how can you be afraid of that old bear?" This subordinate feels that this is indeed an excellent opportunity. Presently, the Sword Demon Dao Abyss has already conquered 54 cities and caused a great upheaval. If we seize this opportunity to make sufficient preparations for an all-out war, then we might be able to seize back the cities we lost in the past. When he spoke up to here, Lai Guang took a deep breath. "My lord, in these past few years, we've always been at a disadvantage in the competition with the Blood Carnage Region Lord. I know that a great deal of hatred has accumulated in your heart. Even though the sword demon Dao Abyss is full of tricks, he can be considered to have imperceptibly fought for an opportunity for us. It wouldn't be too late to deal with him in the future. Regent Lord Heikong was silent. After a long time, he sighed. Forget it, let's do as you say. In fact, he also knew that this was an excellent opportunity to attack, but he was really upset by Lin Sun's calculation. Black Gold Mountain. This was the base camp of Regent Lord Xuanning. My lord, I just heard that those traitors have fled to Regent Lord Heikong's territory with their subordinates. In a palace, Mu Qingyang, who hurriedly returned, quickly reported, "It can be concluded that behind this series of changes, the old man Heikong is the culprit." I have already said that without the old man Heikong's support, how would Sword Demon Dao Abyss have the guts to do this? Regent Lord Xuaning's eyes revealed a fierce light. Send the news, when Liu Xian returns, mobilize all forces to find Heikong to settle the score. Yes. Mu Qingyang nodded. However, he had some doubts in his heart. With Liu Xian's combat strength and the cooperation of so many forces, he should have captured Sword Demon Dao Abyss long ago. But until now there was no news. Could it be that there were some twists and turns? Report. Suddenly, a hurried voice sounded outside the hall. Sword Demon Dao Abyss appeared in Eagle Water City, and the wealth in the city has been looted. Regent Lord Xuanning had an expression of disbelief as he said, "At a time like this damnable bastard actually dares to cause trouble in my territory?" Mu Qingyang was slightly surprised as well. Presently, everyone knew that Regent Lord Xuanning had been infuriated, and he had already dispatched Liu Xian and the others for the sake of capturing and killing Sword Demon Dao Abyss. Under such a situation, Sword Demon Dao Abyss actually didn't seem to be afraid at all, and acting recklessly in Regent Lord Xuanning's territory was no different than courting death. Report. Before Regent Lord Xuanning and Mu Qingyang could react, another hurried voice sounded out. News has come from Bluewood City. Sword Demon Dao Abyss appeared, suppressed city governor Mogan He, and plundered all the wealth in the city. Bang! Before the voice finished resounding through the air, Regent Lord Xuanning had already smashed the teacup in his hand, and he stood up abruptly with rage. This little bastard is absolutely tired of living. Where's Liu Xian? Why is he still taking action? Mu Qingyang was stunned as well. Exactly who gave Sword Demon Dao Abyss the courage to do such a daring thing? Report! Another hurried voice sounded out. Flying Moon City sent news that Sword Demon Dao Abyss has appeared. It was like a death knell, and the news that came was practically the same, and it was related to Sword Demon Dao Abyss. He's going too far. Regent Lord Xuanning was angered to the point his eyes turned red. Does that old geezer, Heikong, really think that he can turn my territory upside down just by sending out Sword Demon Dao Abyss? He fiercely ordered, Mu Qingyang, take some people and kill your way into old geezer Heikong's territory right now. Do what Sword Demon Dao Abyss did. Yes. Mu Qingyang hurriedly received the order and left. Jade Do City. When Lin Sun and Ji Leng walked out of the city governor's estate was in a mess since long ago, and sharp cries sounded out from everywhere. The city governor had fainted, and the wealth hidden within the estate had been completely plunged, causing Jade Do City to fall into upheaval. Senior, this is already the 6th city we've plundered. If nothing unexpected happens, then Regent Lord Xuanning has probably already received the news. I just don't know how infuriated he will be. Chapter 2171. Compared with the anxiety and confusion at the beginning, Ji Leng was no longer surprised by Lin Sun's incredible means. Every time Lin Sun took down a city, Ji Leng felt an indescribable satisfaction and joy in his heart. He understood that this was the feeling of conquest. Now, he was even a little obsessed with this feeling. Let's go and find a place to rest. We'll continue tomorrow. Lin Sun walked forward alone. Senior, do you want to continue? Ji Leng was confused. In his opinion, now that they had helped Region Master He Kong attract enough hatred, he didn't even need to think to know that the furious Region Master Xuan Ning would definitely put the blame on Region Master He Kong. Lin Sun said casually, "As subordinates, we should try our best to help Region Lord He Kong. This is called loyalty." Jiling's lips twitched. Should he loyally push Region Lord He Kong into the fire pit? However, when he thought that he could continue to fight with Lin Sun, Jiling's heart was filled with excitement. A real man should carry a 3-foot sword and make great achievements in the dark and chaotic world. Of course, Jiling also knew that he was just a follower, but this didn't prevent him from enjoying the feeling of conquering the world. What? Suddenly, Lin Sun frowned. An inexplicable chill surged in his heart. He suddenly looked at the distant sky. Almost immediately, the sapling of the Bodhi tree quietly appeared in his palm. It was shining with green clouds. A taboo power of order that ordinary people couldn't detect swept across the sky above the cold sky territory like a storm. "He's here." Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep. He realized that the new nameless Supreme Venerable had probably appeared in this dark world. After thinking for a moment, Lin Sun continued to move forward. With the sapling of the Bodhi tree, Lin Sun didn't worry about being detected by the taboo power of order. But he was very clear that the new nameless Supreme Venerable appeared in the dark world for him. From the beginning to the end, Jiling, who followed Lin Sun, didn't notice it at all. In fact, in this dark world, not to mention a great saint like Jiling, even those emperors could hardly detect the change of the taboo power of order. A group of mountains appeared in front of them. They rose and fell continuously and were enveloped in surging baleful energy. Lin Sun randomly found a mountain peak and sat down cross-legged. He planned to take a rest and continue the operation tomorrow. But not long after, he opened his eyes from meditation. He stood up and stood at the edge of the cliff. He picked up the green-skinned wine gourd and took a sip. Crash! The void in the distance tumbled, and then beams of incomparably dazzling divine rainbows appeared, transforming into figures. The one in the lead was a man in a white robe who looked like an elegant young master. When his eyes opened and closed, divine light flowed, and it was incomparably terrifying. Lu Xian. Jiling's expression changed abruptly. How could he not recognize that this white-robed man was one of the most capable right-hand men under the Xuanning region master? He was a terrifying figure who had the cultivation of a peak quasi-emperor. When Jiling saw the group of people who followed Lu Xian here, his heart sank to the bottom. It was a group of quasi-emperors. There were 29 of them. "I've finally found you." Liu Xian's expression was so cold that it was terrible. His eyes instantly locked on Lin Sun. From the moment he received the order from the Xuanning region master, he led people to search for Lin Sun's whereabouts. Along the way, Lin Sun's whereabouts were erratic. Every time Liu Xian failed to find him, a boiling anger and killing intent had already accumulated in his heart. Although Liu Xian had never seen him before, he still determined that the young man carrying an ancient sword case and drinking wine with a green-skinned gourd was Sword Devil Dao Yuan. "You guys are really slow." Lin Sun glanced at them with a calm expression. His reaction made Liu Xian frown. He forced himself to restrain the killing intent in his heart and said, "Dao Yuan, I'm very curious. Exactly who gave you the courage to even disregard your life?" Lin Sun casually gave a reason. "As a subordinate of Lord Heiting, I naturally act under Lord Heiting's order." Liu Xian could not help but sneer. "Act under orders? Do you want to follow the order even if Lord He Kong sent you to die?" Lin Sun suddenly smiled and said, "There is no other way. The world will understand how loyal I am to Lord Heiting in the future." The corner of Jiling's mouth twitched again. Liu Xian was also startled, and then his face darkened. "Death is at hand. I would like to see how loyal you are." Before his voice died away, he had already made his move. Boom! A bronze spear flowing with bright divine light appeared in Liu Xian's hand, and his imposing manner also changed, causing the world to shake, and the nearby mountains and rivers to collapse one by one. Kill! He let out a roar. His imposing manner was like that of a god, waving the spear to kill. The power that belonged to a quasi-emperor was also vividly reflected at this moment. Kill! The quasi-emperors who came with Liu Xian also did not hesitate to attack. These were all ruthless people who had been floating and sinking in the dark world for many years. Each of them had experienced countless bloodshed, and their means were undoubtedly tyrannical and terrifying. When they attacked together, the world was in chaos, the sun and moon were dim, and the void was in disorder. Jilin trembled all over, his face pale with fright, and almost fell to the ground. He was only a great saint, and compared to a quasi-emperor, there was a huge gap, and he had no power to resist at all. If not for Lin Sun beside him, he would have surrendered at the first moment. And now, he could only pin his hope of survival on Lin Sun, but in his heart, he was not very confident. A quasi-emperor Juting and a group of quasi-emperors, in the cold sky domain, such a force could make anyone despair. How can you be the lord of a domain in the future if you are so timid? Lin Sun's voice sounded, causing Jilin to be stunned and almost go crazy. What time is it, senior, still talking about this? Just as the voice sounded, Lin Sun had already made his move. With a calm expression, he stepped into the void and lightly stepped on the ground. Boom! Heaven and earth became complicated, and the void in this area suddenly collapsed as if it was being suppressed by a god. The group of quasi-emperors who rushed up, as if they were being oppressed, suddenly swayed, and their attacks also showed some signs of disorder. Only Liu Xian suffered the least impact. A bronze spear tore through the void, and its power was incomparably ferocious. Lin Sun did not dodge, and when the spear attacked, he stretched out his hand and grabbed it. The bronze spear, which was flowing with terrifying power that could destroy the world, was firmly grasped like a snake that was grasped at its weak point. Liu Xian's pupils shrank, and he let out a roar, activating his strength with all his strength, and the bronze spear surged with terrifying bloody divine light, which was extremely dazzling. However, no matter how hard he tried, the bronze spear still could not escape from Lin Sun's hand. Is that all you have? No wonder you can only serve a lord of a domain until now. Lin Sun sighed with some disappointment. Liu Xian's expression changed abruptly, and only felt a terrifying power like a landslide and a tsunami from the spear, rushing into his body along his right arm. Boom! The next moment blood flowed from his 7 apertures, and his body was violently shaken off. Before he could stand firm, a terrifying pressure swept over, and with a bang, he directly knelt down in the void. At this moment, his mind went blank, and his pupils were filled with horror. How was this possible? As a quasi-emperor, he had always been conceited, and ordinary people were nothing in his eyes, but now he was suppressed by someone. In the distance, those quasi-emperors felt their hair stand on end, and their scalps were numb. They also did not expect that an existence like Liu Xian would be so weak. Go! Subconsciously, they chose to flee without hesitation. Lin Sun waved his sleeve. Boundless bright sword chi whistled out, turning into a sword rain that covered the sky and the sun, dazzling and blazing, making the mountains and rivers dim. Jilin had seen such a scene. At that time, it was outside Daming City. Meng Tufu and his subordinates came aggressively, but in a twinkling of an eye, they were covered by the overwhelming sword rain. When the sword chi dissipated, Meng Tufu and his subordinates all turned into blood on the ground. This time, a boundless rain of swords appeared as well. However, every single one of their targets was countless times stronger than Meng Tufu. But the result? It was the same. When the sword rain dissipated, the 29 quasi-emperors under the command of the Xuanning region all turned into a rain of blood, falling from the void and staining the ground. There was no difference between their ending and Meng Tufu's. But Ji Ling was still stunned, and his expression was dull, and his heart was in turmoil. Not a sage, not even a quasi-emperor. Liu Xian, who was kneeling in the void, felt as if he was struck by lightning, and his pupils dilated, as if he had lost his soul. 29 quasi-emperors were slaughtered in an instant. In this world, besides the emperor realm, who else could do it? But Liu Xian was sure that Yuan Duan, the sword demon, could not be an emperor realm figure. Although his aura was unfathomable, it did not belong to the emperor realm. This could only prove that Yuan Duan was the same as him, a quasi-emperor, but the combat strength he possessed was stronger and more terrifying. Jiling, if Liu Xian suddenly becomes a traitor, how angry do you think the Xuanning region will be? Lin Sun's voice rang out, waking Jiling up from his shock. He blurted out, if this is the case, the Xuanning region will go crazy. After saying this, Jiling suddenly realized what Lin Sun was going to do, and looked at Liu Xian in the distance with a touch of pity. This guy will probably live under the shadow of Daoyuan in the future. Want me to surrender? Wishful thinking. Liu Xian's voice was sonorous, and his expression was resolute and ruthless. Just a moment later, he knelt there respectfully, as docile as a tamed beast, and his expression was full of awe and fear towards Lin Sun. The contrast was too great, and Ji Ling was dumbfounded. This was a quasi-emperor, and he could not escape the subjugation of the nightmare of fear? Lin Sun stood in the void, his clothes fluttering, and asked with a smile, Look, Ji Ling, we have done so much for Lord Heiting. If you were Lord Heiting, under such a situation, would you be able to resist taking the opportunity to act? P.S. Tomorrow, 3 consecutive days of outburst. Goldfish only hoped that they would add the official account of Goldfish. Open WeChat, search for the official account Xiaojinyu 233, and add them. There were all kinds of plot analysis articles on the official account, and in the future there would also be all kinds of benefits and red packets. Chapter 2172. Liu Xian had betrayed and obeyed the command of the sword demon Dao Abyss to pledge allegiance to the region Lord Heikong. When this news spread out, it was like a bolt from the blue, causing a huge earthquake in the territory controlled by the region lord. Liu Xian is a supreme quasi-emperor. Why would he choose to betray? Many people were dumbfounded. The news is true. Someone saw with their own eyes that Liu Xian suddenly killed several battle generals under the region lord. This sword demon Dao Abyss is too terrifying. How did he make Liu Xian surrender? Without a doubt, a great chaos is bound to be unavoidable. In the territory controlled by the region lord, everyone was in a state of panic. Recently, the lords of 54 cities had betrayed him, causing a huge uproar. Who would have thought that in just a few days, even Liu Xian, who was regarded as one of the region lord's right-hand men, had betrayed him? This was too frightening. Black Gold Mountain. The region lord was completely enraged. He let out an earth-shattering roar, Old Heikong, I swear to kill you. On this day, the furious region lord mobilized all his forces and attacked the territory controlled by the region lord Heikong. What? Liu Xian betrayed him? Heavenly Martial Mountain. When the evil Emperor Heikong heard the news, he was startled and found it hard to believe. Liu Xian was a great quasi-emperor, and he was also the most trusted and capable general of the Xuanning region master. His betrayal would definitely drive the Xuanning region master crazy. Is the sword demon Dao Abyss really so powerful? The evil Emperor Heikong's expression was uncertain. He should have been extremely happy, but he could not be happy. The reason was that the series of events that happened recently was too sudden and abnormal. It made him feel very passive. My lord, this battle is inevitable. Lai Guang's figure appeared outside the hall and said in a deep voice, I just received news that the Supreme Quasi-Emperor Mu Qingyang under the region Lord Xuekong has brought a group of experts to attack our territory. The region Lord Heikong's eyes narrowed. He immediately clenched his teeth and said, "Gather all forces and declare war on the old man Shuekong." Yes. Lai Guang received the order and left. Territory Master Xuening and Territory Master Heikong have started fighting. The two forces have started an all-out bloody war. The news swept across the entire realm of Cold Sky like a storm. For a time, all the other realm lords among the 10 realm lords were alarmed. An all-out battle between 2 region lords was an earth-shattering event. Even in the Dark World, it was very rare. It was hard not to attract attention. Are they crazy? In order to fight for territory, they're willing to disregard everything and start an all-out war? Isn't he too muddle-headed? When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Aren't they worried that the other region lords will take advantage of them? Countless discussions and uproars sounded in the vast territory of the domain of Cold Sky. The other domain lords' forces were also paying close attention to this battle. They're finally killing. Ji Ling's breathing became hurried, and his expression was filled with unconcealable excitement. At this moment, he and Lin Sun had arrived at a city called Silver City. They were sitting in a restaurant and drinking wine. Along with the war between the two great forces, Territory Master Xuening and Territory Master Heikong, a territory at the front line like surging Mulberry City, had completely become a disaster area of the war. Everywhere was filled with the flames of war and scenes of bloody slaughter. Although a place like Silver City was extremely far from the battlefield, the people were still in a state of panic. Many cultivators had fled long ago. They didn't dare to stay at all for fear that the flames of war would sweep over and they would be affected. Lin Sun was drinking wine with a calm expression. Looking at him like this, Ji Ling suddenly had an indescribable feeling in his heart. Who could have imagined that this war that could alarm the entire domain of Cold Sky was actually planned by this young man before him? Ji Ling had a surreal feeling as if he was in a dream when he recalled the scenes of following Lin Sun a few days ago. It was too unbelievable. Lin Sun, who was drinking wine, suddenly said, "Ji Ling, I'm leaving for a period of time tomorrow." Ji Ling was startled. "Senior, where are you going?" Lin Sun said casually, "Continue to light the fire." Ji Ling was stunned. Now that the Territory Master Heikong and the Territory Master Xuening had already started fighting, was this not enough? Lin Sun said, "Do you still remember what I said? As long as you're brave enough, it won't be difficult for you to become a Territory Master in the future." Ji Ling smiled bitterly. He was just a great saint. Even if he became a Territory Master, he could be killed at any time. The Dark World never lacked ruthless people. Lin Sun seemed to have seen through Ji Ling's thoughts at a glance. He said with a faint look in his eyes, "What if I make those who have surrendered listen to your orders? For example, with Liu Xian, ordinary people under the Emperor realm can't kill you." Ji Ling only felt a bang in his head. He completely understood and couldn't help but say in a trembling voice, "Senior, you mean to make all those who have been affected by the nightmare of fear listen to my orders?" If so, it didn't seem difficult to become a Territory Master. Lin Sun nodded. Ji Ling was very smart and had trick. The only flaw was that he was too weak. But if a group of strong people surrendered and listened to his orders, it would be completely different. But what about the people in the Emperor realm? Ji Ling couldn't help but ask. Lin Sun laughed. It could be seen that Ji Ling didn't lose his mind. He said an intriguing sentence. "If the people in the Emperor realm don't get along with you, the Heikong Territory Lord will help you solve them. Just like now, the Heikong Territory Lord is fighting with the Xuening Territory Lord." Ji Ling took a breath and said in a daze, "I seem to understand." An unprecedented ambition erupted like a volcano. When Ji Ling thought of the future, his blood almost boiled. "For the next few days, let Liu Xian stay by your side, listen to your orders, and protect your safety." Lin Sun got up and disappeared in the restaurant in a flash. At the same time, Ji Ling also saw Liu Xian in a silver robe like an elegant child. He didn't know when he appeared, and a pair of eyes were staring at him. Ji Lung was inexplicably flustered. Liu Xian is here to listen to your orders. Liu Xian bowed his head and said in a deep voice. Ji Lung's expression changed for a moment, and there was a touch of determination in his eyes. Liu Xian, from now on, you will follow me and protect me. Yes. Liu Xian agreed without hesitation. It was also at this moment that Ji Ling deeply understood how terrifying the nightmare of terror was. Surging Mulberry City that neighbored the forces of the two region lords had long since been destroyed by the flames of war, and there were ruins and signs of destruction everywhere. 3,000 kilometers away from Surbury City, beneath the sky. Bang! The heavens and the earth were in chaos. The mountains and rivers had long since been obliterated, and boundless terrifying divine radiance swept through, causing this area to seem as if it had fallen into a calamity of the end of the world. This was the battlefield that belonged to the Xuanning territory and the Heikong territory lord. Old geezer Heikong, I'll fucking kill you even if I have to risk my life this time. The Xuanning territory lord roared like thunder. His figure emitted monstrous blood energy, and he held an enormous axe that was coiled with lightning as he charged with all his might in a ferocious and ruthless manner. He was obviously injured, but he was still extremely formidable in battle. Every single move he made caused surging Emperor Realm laws to whistle out and crush the sky. Old bear, if I say that all of this wasn't ordered by me, would you believe me? The Heikong territory lord's expression was unsightly. At this point in the battle, he was already riddled with injuries. The most troublesome thing was that the Xuanning territory lord was obviously fighting with all his might, and it caused him to feel extremely pressured. When he thought that this battle was completely controlled by someone else, and he was only passively involved in it, the Heikong territory lord felt extremely aggrieved in his heart. The Xuanning territory lord roared, and he was so angry that his eyes turned red. F***CKU Heikong. It's already at this point, and you still won't admit it? Do you really think I'm an idiot? Bang! As he spoke, he fiercely chopped his axe towards the Heikong territory lord. The Heikong territory lord was shaken to the point that his chi and blood surged, and he suddenly became furious. Old bear, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Afraid? I'll kill you, despicable old bastard. For a time, the two Emperor Realm figures fought madly, and they were truly enraged. Not long after, the Heikong territory lord was injured more and more, and the Xuanning territory lord was also not in a good state. However, he had already risked his life, and he didn't care at all. The Heikong territory lord was anxious. He didn't want to have a life-and-death struggle, and that was not worth it. Stop! He roared, and his eyes almost popped out of his sockets. I suspect that this is very likely to be the conspiracy of the Sword Demon Dao Abyss, and it's to make us die together. Conspiracy? Until now, you still won't admit it? The Xuanning territory lord flew into a rage, and his attacks became more and more frenzied. The Heikong territory lord only felt indescribably aggrieved, indescribably angry, and indescribably angry. He suddenly gritted his teeth and said, I admit it, okay? Can you stop first? You've already admitted it, and you still want me to stop? Old man Heikong, you've gone too far. The Xuanning territory lord roared. Bang! The battle became more and more tragic, and the Xuanning territory lord was completely desperate. He waved his giant axe, and it seemed like he was going to split the world and sweep the world. From afar, Lin Sun, who had just arrived, saw this scene, and his eyes couldn't help but become a little strange. The Heikong territory lord probably hated him to death in his heart. Yi, it's time for you to make a move. Lin Sun sent a thought. Clang! The bronze sword box on Lin Sun's back produced a roar, and like a ray of bright light, a leaf suddenly swept out and disappeared. The next moment, the furious Xuanning territory lord suddenly stiffened, and his attack also showed a trace of stagnation. Clang! At the same time, The halberd in the Haikong Territory Lord's hand was blocked by a sword chi, and his figure suddenly staggered back. Who? The Haikong Territory Lord's face suddenly changed. Then, he saw the Xuanning region master's body, which was as sturdy as a mountain, fall straight down from the sky. He smashed into the ground headfirst, causing countless gravel and dust to fly everywhere. The Haikong Territory Lord felt a chill in his heart, and he turned around to escape. At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded. Subordinate Dao Yuan has come to pay a visit to Lord Haikong. This sentence resounded in this chaotic and turbulent world, causing the figure of the Haikong Territory Lord to stop, and his face suddenly became as black as the bottom of a pot. Chapter 2173. In the distance, a young man stood in the void. His clothes were neat and clean, and he was as ethereal as an immortal. You are Tao Abyss of Sword Demon? Although Haikong's face was gloomy, he was surprised and doubtful in his heart. The sudden suppression of Lord Xuanning brought him a great shock. He didn't need to think about it to know that it must be done by the young man in front of him. This made Haikong's heart full of fear. Lin Sun smiled and said, "Yes, it's me." The moment he heard the word subordinate, the Black Sea region lord felt annoyed and depressed in his heart, and his expression became even more unsightly. He took a deep breath and resisted the urge to slap Lin Sun to death. He said, "I don't have such a capable subordinate like you. Tell me, what are you plotting by doing so many things in my name?" Lin Sun smiled and said, "Of course I want to expand your territory and make great achievements." Veins bulged on Haikong's forehead. He gritted his teeth and said, "Really? I didn't expect you to be so loyal." Lin Sun said modestly, "You flatter me." Haikong felt that if they continued to talk like this, he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. He took a deep breath and said in a cold voice, "Don't beat around the bush. If you continue to hide, don't blame me for being rude." Lin Sun smiled and asked, "Do you dare?" At this moment, Leaf turned into a bright light and fell on Lin Sun's shoulder. He said in a calm voice, "What should I do?" Lin Sun looked at Haikong, who was at the second level of Emperor Realm and was seriously injured. Such a guy could be suppressed with one blow. Being stared at by Leaf, Haikong shivered all over and felt a chill in his heart. He finally understood why the young man in front of him was so confident. Lord Haikong is a good man. He is willing to take me in as his subordinate, which is full of courage and righteousness. Lin Sun looked serious, so I decided to do more things for Lord Haikong in the future. I must make Lord Haikong famous in the Cold Sky territory so that everyone knows about him. A strong sense of foreboding welled up in the heart of Region Lord Haikong, and he angrily said, What exactly do you want to do?" "Lord, there's no need to panic. I've come here with the hope that you're ready. In the future, all the forces in the Cold Sky region will respect you. Only then can I express my gratitude." After saying that, Lin Sun left with a smile. "Stop!" Region Lord Haikong shouted loudly. He was shocked and furious at the same time, and he felt that something was off. "My lord, this subordinate will give you a bright future. You can't do anything stupid that you think is infallible." Lin Sun walked away without looking back. At this moment, Region Lord Haikong was so impulsive that he wanted to make a move several times, but he restrained himself in the end. He didn't dare. The lesson of Region Master Xuanning was still fresh in his mind. This sword demon Dao Abyss. Who exactly is he? After a short while, Region Lord Haikong finally calmed down, and a wisp of gloominess appeared on his face. He suddenly felt that he'd fallen into a shapeless net, and he was unable to break free. On this day, Region Lord Haikong killed Region Master Xuanning and won a complete victory. He annexed the territory originally controlled by Region Master Xuanning in one fell swoop. As soon as the news came out, the whole Cold Sky region was in an uproar. For ordinary practitioners, it didn't matter if they changed to another region lord. As long as they made a living in the dark world, they were doomed to be exploited. But to the other region lords of the 10 region lords, the great victory of the Black Sea region lord had a completely different meaning. This meant that from today on, the situation of 10 region lords coexisting in the Cold Sky region had become history. In the future, there would be 9 region lords coexisting in the Cold Sky region. And Region Lord Haikong, who had annexed the territory of Region Master Xuening, had more than doubled his power. The power he possessed was no longer comparable to before. When did this old man Haikong become so fierce? Has his cultivation broken through and stepped into the 3rd level of the Emperor realm? Some region lords were surprised and doubtful. His power has doubled, and the tribute he gets every month is an astronomical figure. In this way, the cultivation resources owned by this old man Haikong will also become more abundant. Some of them frowned and were afraid. The order of the dark world had collapsed and was in chaos. Coupled with the thin qi of heaven and earth, it was fine for ordinary practitioners. But for Emperor Realm practitioners, this extremely harsh environment could not satisfy their cultivation need. For example, each of the 10 domain lords of the domain of Cold Sky controlled hundreds of thousands of cities, and every domain lord could collect hundreds of millions of Dao crystals every month. But for Emperor Realm practitioners like them, these doctrine crystals had to be handed over to the divine illuminating ancient sect. Only in this way would they have the opportunity to exchange for cultivation resources from the divine illuminating ancient sect that could be called treasures to satisfy their cultivation needs. In short, if ordinary practitioners wanted to survive in the dark world, they had to enter a city and pay doctrine crystals in order to obtain protection. Every city lord also had to pay tribute to obtain the recognition of the region lord. For their own cultivation, the region lords also had to pay tribute to exchange for the cultivation resources they needed from the divine illuminating ancient sect. In this way, there was no doubt that the divine illuminating ancient sect stood at the top of the food chain and benefited the most. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the divine illuminating ancient sect was as one of the 3 giants of the dark world. This was just the Cold Sky region. It should be known that the dark world had a total of 33 territories. For the region Lord Haikong, the expansion of his territory meant that he could have more doctrine crystals to exchange for the cultivation resources he needed from the divine illuminating ancient sect. This was the reason why the other region lords were afraid of the dark world. In a word, this time the region lord Haikong annexed the territory of the region lord Xuekong, which was of great significance. But the region lord Haikong himself couldn't be happy. At the thought that all this was calculated and arranged, the region lord Haikong even felt an indescribable chill. The sword Devil Tao Abyss, what on earth was it going to do? He couldn't figure it out. It had only been a month since Lin Sun arrived in the dark world. A month ago, when he entered the Great Ping City, he was regarded as a fat sheep that had just arrived and caused some small disturbances. A month later, the name of the sword Devil Tao Abyss shone like a dazzling comet in the territories controlled by the region lord Haikong and the region lord Xuekong. Many people thought that if there was no such a capable subordinate like the sword Devil Tao Abyss, it would be impossible for the region lord Haikong to annex the territory of the region lord Xuekong. Many people sighed that the region lord Haikong had great means, otherwise it would be impossible for him to cultivate such an outstanding subordinate like the sword Devil Tao Abyss. In short, although Lin Sun was famous, his reputation was attached to the region lord Haikong. Without the support of the region lord Haikong, the sword Devil Tao Abyss would not be able to rise in the Cold Sky region so quickly. And this view was also what Lin Sun was happy to see. Because only by spreading the name, the sword Devil Tao Abyss, could she find him as soon as possible. But similarly, the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. If the name was too famous, it was bound to cause a lot of unnecessary trouble and disturbances. After all, the new nameless Supreme Sovereign had arrived in the heavens, and it was still uncertain whether the purple-clothed woman, Yen Xing, was killed by she. Because of this, when Lin Sun became famous, he immediately thought of letting the Regent Lord He Kong take the blame. In this way, his reputation would spread, but the world would only think that his rise was inseparable from the support of the Regent Lord He Kong. Even if the Regent Lord wanted to find trouble with him, the Regent Lord He Kong was also an excellent shield. This was Lin Sun's core intention. It was not that Lin Sun was evil and blindly harmed the Regent Lord He Kong, but at the beginning, it was the Regent Lord He Kong who took the initiative to make him surrender. In short, the Regent Lord He Kong brought this upon himself, and Lin Sun was happy to push the boat along with the current. However, now Lin Sun had another idea. Among the three dark giants, whether it was the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect or the Hidden Land Realm, they all had a deep hatred with him. In the past years, whether in the Ancient Desolation Realm or on the Starry Sky Ancient Road, as long as the descendants of the two dark giants appeared, they must come to kill Lin Sun. In this regard, how could Lin Sun not bear a grudge? Moreover, Lin Sun would not forget that the culprit behind the bloody case of the Lin family was Ba Qi, the quasi-emperor of the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. At present, the Cold Sky territory could be said to be a territory controlled by the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. Even the 10 region lords had to rely on the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect to survive. If the Cold Sky territory was turned upside down, could the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect still sit still? Lin Sun wanted to give it a try. However, just as Lin Sun was about to take action, an order issued by the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect spread throughout the Cold Sky territory at an incredible speed. The content of the order was very simple. All the major forces in the Cold Sky territory were ordered to search for the whereabouts of Lin Sun, the descendant of the Mind Mountain in the entire Cold Sky territory. As soon as the news came out, the Cold Sky territory caused a sensation. The reason was that this order came with an extremely attractive reward. Just by providing some valuable clues, one could get a reward of 1 billion Tao gems. If they could capture Lin Sun, the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect would give them even more generous rewards. No matter what the request was, as long as it was within the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect's ability, they would all be satisfied. 1 billion Tao gems might not be enough to attract the attention of the emperors, but the generous reward from the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect was enough to tempt them. Such news and such an order were not only spread in the Cold Sky territory, but also in the other 32 realms of the Dark World almost at the same time. In other words, the order to capture and kill Lin Sun, the descendant of the Mind Mountain, was issued in the entire Dark World within a day. The meaning behind this was far too unusual. Who could be so generous as to mobilize the power of the entire Dark World just to deal with one person? When Lin Sun received this news, the first person that came to his mind was the new venerable Emperor Nameless. At about 6 o'clock in the evening. Chapter 2174. The Dark World was a chaotic and turbulent place. Its territory was comparable to that of the Hongmeng world. Here, crooks mixed with honest people, there were many forces, and there were many ferocious people who were wanted by the outside world. But now, an order had been issued that mobilized all the forces of the Dark World to hunt down a single person. This in itself was inconceivable. It should be known that most strong people fled to the Dark World to take refuge. But now, even the Dark World wanted to put a person on the wanted list. This was unbelievable. What kind of crime did that person commit to receive such special treatment? Only Lin Sun himself knew why. However, he was not worried about anything. With the Rui Taoist robe given by Senior Sister Ruo Su, coupled with the Tao doppelganger that he possessed, even if an Emperor Realm person came, it would be impossible to recognize his identity. In this vast and boundless dark world, as long as he wanted to hide, no one could find him in a short time. On this day, when the Dark World was shocked by the order to arrest Lin Sun, Lin Sun also left the territory controlled by Regent Lord Haikong. From beginning to end, it seemed that he was not affected at all. Tianwu Mountain. When receiving the order to arrest Lin Sun, Regent Lord Haikong was thinking gloomily. That guy said that in the future in this Cold Sky territory, all the forces will respect me. What does he want to do? Does he want to use the same trick as he did to Regent Lord Xuanning? Thinking of this, Regent Lord Haikong's lips twitched. He swore that he would not be fooled again this time. After taking a deep breath, Regent Lord Haikong opened the jade slip in his hand. The jade slip recorded the wanted order for Lin Sun, and some detailed information about Lin Sun was displayed on it. Identity: Successor of Mind Mountain Cultivation, Quasi-Emperor Ju Shi Combat Strength. Ranked first on the Great Sage list, defeated Mi Weia, the first on the King Sage list, and killed an Emperor Realm person with his trump card. Seeing this, Regent Lord Haikong was shocked and couldn't help but click his tongue. This guy was absolutely a person who defied the natural order. No wonder he was wanted all over the world. Even if he escaped to the Dark World, there was no place for him. This kind of person was really too dangerous. Continue reading. This kid was good at disguising himself, and he was decisive in killing. He could capture anyone suspicious and pick them out one by one. There was also a portrait of Lin Sun in the jade slip. Seeing this, Regent Lord Haikong couldn't help but sneer. How could such a heaven-defying and ruthless person who was proficient in disguise be so easy to capture? So what if they found him? Just the trump card in his hands was enough to kill an Emperor Realm expert. Who would be foolish enough to risk their lives against such a person? For the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect to offer such a generous reward, it was obvious that they knew that not just anyone could capture this brat. Thinking of this, Regent Lord Haikong was about to put away the jade slip when he suddenly froze. He thought of someone. That person was also a Quasi-Emperor Juing, and he also had a trump card that could suppress the Xuanning Regent Master. Although his appearance was different from the portrait of Lin Sun in the jade slip, the information said that Lin Sun was extremely good at disguising himself. Sword Demon Dao Abyss. But the jade slip in his hand was crushed. Regent Lord Haikong's face completely changed. Could it be really him? Regent Lord Haikong's expression was uncertain. After a while, he suddenly burst into laughter. His voice shook the hall, filled with indescribable joy and joy. I don't care if you are the descendant of Fangtsuan Mountain or not. I believe you are. Since you dared to plot against me, I will teach you a lesson this time. Regent Lord Haikong took a deep breath and decided to immediately pass this news to the first Regent Lord of the Domain of Cold Sky, Wind-Slaying Demon Emperor. Wind-Slaying Demon Emperor was an elder of the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect, so it was best for him to report this matter. At that time, I would like to see how you will escape this great disaster. Regent Lord Haikong stood up and said in a deep voice, "Come in." Outside the hall, a figure walked in. "What can I do for you, Lord?" It was just a voice, but it made Regent Lord Haikong's body stiffen. He looked up and immediately revealed a look of disbelief. "Sword Demon Dao Yuan, how could it be you?" The figure was tall and handsome. It was Lin Sun. He smiled and said, "I heard that the Dark World is now searching for the descendant of Fangtsuan Mountain, Lin Sun. I am worried that you are thinking too much, so I came to see." After saying that, Lin Sun sighed in his heart. Originally, he planned to let Regent Lord Haikong take the blame, but who would have thought that a wanted order would disrupt his plan? Fortunately, in the month that he entered the Dark World, the only one who would really have doubts about his identity was Regent Lord Haikong. This hidden danger was easy to solve. So, Lin Sun came. "What do you mean?" Regent Lord Haikong's expression changed. Lin Sun casually said, "My lord should have seen that warrant, right? Could it be that you do not suspect that the successor of Fangtsuan Mountain, Lin Sun, was able to defeat the Xuanning Region Lord as a peak quasi-emperor? Is it really you? Region Lord He Kong looked surprised. Don't pretend. You have already guessed it, right? Lin Sun sneered. If my guess is right, you must be planning to inform the Dark World first, right? Region Lord He Kong's heart sank to the bottom, but he forced a smile and said, Dao Yuan, I only know that if it weren't for you, it would be impossible for me to annex the territory of Region Lord Xuanning so smoothly. You are a great benefactor to me. How could I do such a despicable thing? After a pause, he said firmly, What's more, I don't believe that you are the descendant of Fangtsuan Mountain, Lin Sun. If you don't believe me, I can swear to God. Lin Sun said, I don't believe in oaths. Then, how can you believe me? Region Lord He Kong's whole body was tense like a fully drawn bow. If you surrender, I will believe you, Lin Sun said seriously. Before his voice died away, Region Lord He Kong in the distance suddenly attacked. He exhausted all his strength, as if he was desperate, not daring to have a trace of reservation. After witnessing the scene of Region Lord Xuanning being suppressed, Region Lord He Kong had long realized the horror of Lin Sun. Boom! His figure rushed out and moved in the void. The power of the Emperor Realm was overwhelming and incomparably fierce. He didn't want to kill the enemy, only to be able to escape. But halfway, a dazzling and gorgeous sword chi swept out, extremely fierce, and flashed gently in the void. Puff! A bloody sword mark was torn on the body of Region Lord He Kong, and he was almost cut in half. Blood spurted out like a waterfall. He raised his hand and pressed, and Region Lord He Kong was suppressed to the ground and imprisoned. From beginning to end, he was as weak as an ant. Of course, this was not because he was not strong enough, but because the combat power possessed by Yi was far above him, and Yi had the absolute power to crush him. He showed a look of horror and disbelief. Even he couldn't resist this sword? Lin Sun. Should we kill him? Yi fell on Lin Sun's shoulder and asked. Lin Sun thought for a moment and said, He still has some use, so we can imprison him for the time being. As he spoke, Lin Sun stepped forward, picked up the seriously injured and imprisoned Region Lord He Kong, and stuffed him into the Great Way Without End Tower. Then, Lin Sun shook his body and transformed into the appearance of Region Lord He Kong, and the Rui Taoist robe on his body also transformed into a black robe. Then, he walked out of the hall slowly. From today on, I will be in seclusion for a period of time. If there is no urgent matter, no one is allowed to disturb me. Besides that, I've already ordered the Sword Devil Dao Abyss to move out and do something great. All of you will be clearly aware of exactly what it is after a period of time. I only have one request, and Sword Demon Tao Abyss represents my will. It didn't take long for the voice of Region Lord He Kong to resound throughout the Tianwu Mountain and was heard by his subordinates. For a time, the whole Tianwu Mountain was restless. No one felt that it was abnormal for Region Lord He Kong to be in seclusion. What made them restless was that no one expected Region Lord He Kong to value Sword Demon Tao Abyss so much. It was obvious that he regarded Sword Demon Tao Abyss as his confidant. But no one dared to question it. Sword Demon Tao Abyss had made great contributions in the annexation of the territory of Region Lord Xuanning. This was a brilliant military achievement that was obvious to all, so it was natural for it to be valued. Lin Sun stayed in Tianwu Mountain for 2 more days until he was sure that the death of Region Lord He Kong did not cause any disturbance, and then he left quietly. Lin Sun thought that after receiving the new order from the nameless Supreme Emperor, there would be a murderous atmosphere in the Cold Sky territory. At least, the major forces would send various forces to carry out actions. But the fact was completely beyond Lin Sun's expectation. After many days of observation, after leaving the territory of Region Lord He Kong and traveling to dozens of cities, he realized that the order to arrest him was indeed causing a ruckus, but it was all bark and no bite. Not to mention those major forces, even the lords of each city were most concerned about one question: survival. This was the world of darkness in the end, and it was filled with unrest and danger. Slaughter occurred frequently, and it was already extremely difficult for those experts to survive. So who would issue a warrant for a person that was completely unrelated to them just because of an order? Of course, discussions about Lin Sun, the successor of Mind Mountain, could still be seen everywhere, but they were limited to chatting. This was the dark world. No matter how tempting the reward of Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect was, in the face of a wanted criminal who could kill an emperor, people directly extinguished the idea of searching for him. Even the region lords had merely taken some insignificant actions. For them, it was obviously a thankless task to arrest such a ruthless character who was not only good at disguise but also incredibly powerful. It was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. This made Lin Sun realize that unless his identity was exposed and he left valuable clues, at least in this cold sky territory, he didn't have to worry about being hunted down. When there is no retreat, the dark world is the only way out. Chapter 2175. As time went by, the cold sky territory regained its former peace. This kind of peace was relative. In different regions, different cities and different places there were frequent killings every day. Turbulence and bloodshed had long been the eternal scene of the dark world. Silver City. Jiling sat in a small tavern, silently thinking about his own matters. A month had passed, but there was no news about Dao Yuan, as if he had disappeared from the world. Where on earth did he go? At the same time, in the Spirit Bottle City. The Spirit Bottle City was one of the 234 cities controlled by the Region Lord Huang Ho, one of the top 10 Region Lords. On the bustling street, Lin Sun walked out of the city with his hands clasped behind his back. Over the course of a month, he traveled through the territory controlled by Region Lord Huang Ho, and his footprints covered different cities. Now, including the Spirit Bottle City, Lin Sun had visited all the 234 cities controlled by the Region Lord Huang Ho. It's time to meet the Region Lord Huang Ho. Outside the city, Lin Sun breathed a long sigh of relief and teleported away. Fengxia Mountain. The lair of the Region Lord Huang Ho. Compared with the Black Gold Mountain and the Sky Marshal Mountain of the Region Lord Heikong, the Fengxia Mountain was more majestic and lofty. There were many buildings on it, and it was covered with formations. However, in the eyes of a grandmaster of Taoism like Lin Sun, the heavy formations were just decorations. Quietly, Lin Sun walked into the Fengxia Mountain. On the top of the mountain, there stood an ancient temple, bathed in the sunlight, exuding a sacred and solemn atmosphere. In the temple, the demon emperor Huang Ho sat alone in front of a desk, looking at a secret map drawn by an ancient animal skin. He was majestic, with black hair hanging loosely over his shoulders. Dressed in a dark purple robe, he looked domineering as if he was overlooking the world. Will the tribulation of oblivion really appear 1 year from now? Since ancient times until now, there are only 2 records of this tribulation. Region Lord Huang Ho's gaze was fixed on the beast's skin as he pondered with a frown. The first time was at the beginning of primordial times. At that time, the world of darkness that encountered this calamity fell into unprecedented turmoil and destruction. It was regarded as the place where the gods were buried. The first time was at the beginning of the ancient times. Calamity descended from the heavens, and all living things were in decline. Ferocious spirits of mutated beasts descended from the heavens and wreaked havoc in the dark world, completely cutting off the dark world's path to the outside world. It also caused the dark world to be like a lone island, isolated from the world of the heavens. What about this time? If the tribulation of oblivion descends, then what sort of terrifying calamity will erupt? Strange, according to the records in this secret scroll, the tribulation of oblivion this time is unlike the previous 2 tribulations. After the calamity, the rebirth of freedom will appear, and it's taken to be the #1 paradise of rebirth in the ages." Lord Huang Ho frowned. Nirvana of freedom? The #1 nirvana of all times? He had never heard of such a thing before. The sound of footsteps rang out. Outside the hall, a tall figure appeared. Regent Lord Huang Ho frowned, and he didn't even raise his head as he said, "Didn't I tell you not to disturb me unless it's urgent?" His voice carried displeasure. "I'm sorry for disturbing you without an invitation." The tall figure walked directly into the hall in a composed manner. Regent Lord Huang Ho suddenly raised his head while his pupils emitted a frightening glow of lightning. "Who are you?" He put away the beast-skin secret scroll and stood up. His dark purple robe fluttered without any wind, and his entire body was suffused with the pressure of the Emperor realm that was like a tide. Lin Sun said indifferently, "I've come under the orders of Regent Lord He Kong to summon you to surrender." "Summon me to surrender?" Regent Lord Huang Ho almost didn't dare believe his ears. "You said that old man He Kong wants me to submit to him?" Lin Sun nodded. "Exactly." Regent Lord Huang Ho laughed out of extreme rage. "Such a scene is too absurd. When did old man He Kong put on such airs? He only sent a single person, yet he dares to come ask me to submit? How did you come in?" Regent Lord Huang Ho suddenly realized something. His Fengxia mountain was so heavily guarded, but the other party had actually appeared silently. "Of course I walked in," Lin Sun said casually. The anger on Regent Lord Huang Ho's face turned gloomy. He frowned and stared at Lin Sun for a while before he suddenly said, Are you the sword demon Tao Yuan?" "Yes." Lin Sun nodded. He looked extremely calm. As an emperor-level existence in the Dark World for many years, Regent Lord Huang Ho had never seen any quasi-emperor who dared to confront him like this. For a moment, he couldn't help feeling a little surprised. Where did this kid get the courage to come here alone and act wildly? The next moment, Regent Lord Huang Ho understood. Clang! Accompanied by a clear and melodious sword sound, he turned into a ray of light and swept out from the sword case behind Lin Sun. It was bright and blazing, and the sword intent was shocking. Regent Lord Huang Ho's pupils shrank and he waved his sleeve. Boom! An unparalleled black lightning law swept out and turned into a dazzling lightning talisman that shrouded Yi. This talisman was extremely mysterious. It contained the boiling lightning law and evolved into a lightning spirit with a bird's head and a human's body, with wings on its back. Its destructive aura was astonishing. As soon as it flashed over, it was like a kingdom of lightning that attacked. Yi shot out like a rainbow that pierced through the sky, and it tore through the void with peerless ferocity and sharpness. Rip! In just an instant, the lightning talisman was torn apart, and lightning splattered everywhere as it rumbled and collapsed. Regent Lord Huang Ho's pupils shrank, and a flying knife appeared in front of him. It was bright green and flowed with a sharp and terrifying cold light. At this moment, he exerted his full strength and circulated the power of the Emperor level. Dazzling and thick black lightning law coiled around his body, and its power was terrifying to the extreme. Swish! As the green flying knife slashed out, Regent Lord Huang Ho followed closely behind it. It was unbelievably fast. However, there was a deafening clang. The green flying knife was blasted away by the sword, and a wisp of sword chi stopped in front of Regent Lord Huang Ho's throat. It was too fast. It was so fast that Regent Lord Huang Ho had just reacted when the sword chi had already arrived, and his figure stopped and stiffened in the void. He didn't dare to move an inch forward. In the blink of an eye, a sword had suppressed an emperor. Regent Lord Huang Ho's expression changed drastically. He was just about to retreat when the sword chi at his throat suddenly produced a slight buzz and pierced through his skin, causing a stream of blood to gush out. "It's just the second level of the Emperor realm. Struggling is futile." Ye's voice was calm as if he was stating a matter of course. Regent Lord Huang Ho's heart turned cold, and he didn't dare to move at all. He looked at Lin Sun and said in a hoarse voice, No wonder the old man Heikong was able to annex Xuenning's territory so smoothly. It turns out that he has such an amazing subordinate. Lin Sun smiled slightly. You flatter me. Should I kill him? He asked. Knock him out and capture him alive. All right. Dong. In the next moment, Regent Lord Huang Ho fainted and was imprisoned by Ye's secret method. Lin Sun looked. He suddenly noticed that Regent Lord Huang Ho was still holding an old secret scroll made of animal skin tightly in his hand, even though he had fainted. He withdrew it and passed it to Lin Sun. Lin Sun opened the secret scroll, and there were rows of messy and ancient words written on it. Some of the words were already blurred. Obviously, it had existed for a long time and had been corroded by the passage of time. Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned after he finished reading it. It turned out that the secret scroll recorded the 2 tribulations of oblivion that had appeared in the dark world in the past. The first occurred at the beginning of the primeval times. After this tribulation erupted, it caused the dark world to fall into destruction, and numerous terrifying existences that were taken to be like gods were buried beneath the tribulations of oblivion. From then on, the dark world was taken to be the burial place of the god. The second tribulations of oblivion occurred at the beginning of the primeval times. A calamity descended from the heavens, causing the heavens and the earth to weaken. Numerous variant beasts and ferocious spirits attacked from the outside world, and they destroyed the path that connected the dark world to the outside world. It was also from then on that the dark world was like a lone island that floated outside the ancient path in the starry sky, and it was isolated from the world. Yet now, according to the records of the secret scroll, the tribulations of oblivion would descend once more in around a year's time. However, this time was different from the past, and it was extremely likely that a place called Nirvana of Freedom would appear. Moreover, this place was called the number 1 place of rebirth throughout the ages. Have you heard of the secrets related to the tribulations of oblivion? Lin Sun couldn't help but ask. He shook his head. Lin Sun thought for a moment yet was unable to figure it out, so he put away the secret scroll and said in his heart, if the 3rd tribulations of oblivion really erupt, then perhaps I'll be able to see it in a year's time. A year is still a long time. When Lin Sun walked out of Fenglight Mountain, he didn't cause any commotion all along the way. It was also on this day. The governors of the 234 cities controlled by Regent Lord Huang Ho announced in unison that they would obey the orders of the Sword Demon Dao Abyss and submit to Regent Lord Heikong. As soon as the news spread, a mighty uproar arose once more in the Cold Sky region that had just been calm for a month, and it caused a great earthquake. What? The Sword Demon Dao Abyss again? Isn't this fellow too ferocious? It's only been a month, yet he's already caused such a great commotion. It's too terrifying. This time, all the cities controlled by Regent Lord Huang Ho actually betrayed him on the same day. How exactly did the Sword Demon Dao Abyss accomplish this? There's surely the support of Regent Lord Heikong behind him. Otherwise, how could he possibly possess such great ability by himself? An uproar resounded, and it was mixed with shock and fear. While everyone was waiting to see how territorial Lord Huang Ho would react, another shocking piece of news came out of nowhere. Regent Lord Huang Ho was suppressed and surrendered to Regent Lord Heikong. It was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. This could be said to be earth-shattering, and it caused the other region lords of the Cold Sky region to be unable to sit still. When the territory of Regent Lord Xuenning was annexed, a bloody battle had erupted. But Regent Lord Huang Ho was actually suppressed and surrendered under the circumstances that no one knew about it. This was undoubtedly too unbelievable, and it caused everyone to feel extremely disappointed. It was even to the extent that many people didn't dare believe it and were unable to accept it, and they felt that this news couldn't possibly be true. But as time passed and more news verified it, people finally believed that Regent Lord Huang Ho was indeed defeated. Because Region Lord Huang Ho's shadow had long disappeared from Fenglight Mountain. It was as if he had evaporated from the world and disappeared without a trace. If he was still alive, if he wasn't suppressed, how could he not take action against those traitors? Chapter 2176. When the news spread to the territory controlled by the Heikong Region Lord, it caused a great commotion. Even those experts who were attached to Region Lord Heikong couldn't believe that in just a month, another Region Lord had surrendered to Region Lord Heikong. The most absurd thing was that they didn't know anything from the beginning until the end. Some people also remembered the words that Region Lord Heikong said before he went into closed-door cultivation a month ago. "I've sent Sword Demon Dao Yuan to do something big. You'll know when the time comes." Now, they finally knew. But when they thought that Sword Demon Dao Yuan alone helped Region Lord Heikong to do such a big thing, they still couldn't help but tremble and be shocked. Isn't that guy too ferocious? What closed-door cultivation? I think Lord Heikong went to Region Lord Huang Ho's territory alone. Otherwise, how could Sword Demon Dao Yuan defeat Region Lord Huang Ho alone? Someone made such a deduction, and it quickly gained the agreement of most people. This was the only explanation that made sense. What Region Lord Heikong? It must be done by Senior Dao Yuan alone. When Jilin got the news, he immediately predicted that this matter was destined to have nothing to do with Region Lord Heikong. However, when he thought that even Region Lord Huang Ho wasn't a match for Senior Dao Yuan, Jilin couldn't help but be shocked. Strong. Too strong. In just a month, a person alone annexed a Region Lord's force. After this incident, the name of Sword Demon Dao Yuan completely resounded in the sky of the Cold Sky territory. Of course, whenever he was mentioned, Region Lord Heikong would be mentioned. No one thought that Region Lord Heikong would accept such an outstanding subordinate. To the other Region Lords of the Cold Sky territory, Region Lord Heikong had become a great threat. 1 month ago, he annexed Region Lord Xuenning's territory. 1 month later, he annexed Region Lord Huang Ho's territory. This speed of expansion was simply shocking. No one could be sure if such a thing would happen again in the next month. This old man Heikong's behavior is too unsightly. I can't just sit here and wait for death. On Mount Mochi, Region Lord Lin Feng's expression was gloomy. He had a thin figure and the appearance of a young man. He had striking crimson hair, and as his pupils opened and closed, terrifying phenomena of incinerating the heavens and the earth floated up into appearance. His territory was right next to Region Lord Huang Ho's, and the other side was bordered by Region Lord Xuenning's territory. This made him worry that the next target of Heikong's annexation would fall on his head. "Report," a hurried voice sounded outside the hall. "My lord, Domain Lord Nethermoon, Domain Lord Feiya, and Domain Lord Huishuang have come together to visit you. They are now waiting outside the mountain gate." The Cold Wind Region Lord was startled, then he revealed a joyful expression and said, "Quickly invite him in." He had a premonition in his heart that these 3 Region Lords had probably been provoked by Region Lord Heikong and felt extremely threatened. Not long after, 3 figures appeared outside the hall. A thin old man with yellow hair and a dignified appearance held a blood-red horsetail whisk in his hand, and his eyes were suffused with a strange dark blue glow. This was the Lord of the Nether Moon Domain. A burly middle-aged man in dark armor with a fierce and rugged appearance walked like a moving divine mountain, giving off an incomparably oppressive feeling. This was Region Lord Feiya. The other figure was petite and exquisite, with long hair coiled into a bun. Her appearance was outstanding, and her expression was aloof and cold. She was Region Lord Huishuang. These 3 were all Emperor Realm existences who had been in the Cold Sky territory for many years. They had experienced the ups and downs of danger, and were used to seeing blood and wind. But at this moment there was a trace of haze on their faces. "Quickly invite the 3 of you in." The Cold Wind Region Lord welcomed them into the hall and took their seats. "Fellow Lin Feng, you must have guessed our purpose of coming, so there's no harm in saying it directly. The Nether Moon Region Lord, who looked like an old man but had frightening eyes, said in a deep voice, "We came here to invite fellow Taoists to join us to destroy that old man He Kong." There was undisguised killing intent in his voice. That's right. The Cold Sky territory was originally controlled by us 10 region lords. Although there were occasional conflicts and frictions between us, it was within an acceptable range. Region Lord Fei gritted her teeth and said, "However, this old geezer He Kong has successively swallowed the territories of fellow Taoists Xuanning and Huang Ho within 2 months of time. Such actions are simply rampant and arrogant to the extreme. In my opinion, if we don't do something to stop him, I'm afraid our territories will be invaded and swallowed by this old man one by one." Region Lord Hui Shuang's expression was cold, and her words were full of anger. The balance of the past had been broken. Like stormy waves in a pool of autumn water, everyone was bound to be inevitably affected. The Cold Wind Region Lord did not immediately agree, but asked, "Fellow Taoists, what does fellow Taoist Feng Tu mean?" Fellow Taoist Feng Tu was Demon Emperor Feng Tu, the first Region Lord of the Cold Sky territory. At the same time, he was also an elder of the divine illuminating ancient sect. This made Demon Emperor Feng Tu's status in the Cold Sky territory extremely high. Ming Yu sneered. "He's busy dispatching his forces to coordinate with the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect's order to search for the successor of Mount Fangtsuan. He doesn't have time to care about this." Region Master Fei said, "Brother Feng Tu is from the Godly Illuminating Ancient Sect, so he wouldn't worry about He Kong attacking him. Unlike us, we can only rely on ourselves if we want to survive in the frigid sky region." "I see." The Cold Wind Region Lord immediately understood. "Fellow Taoist, if the 4 of us attack together, it's sufficient to easily annihilate old man He Kong. There's utterly no need to look for other helpers." Region Mistress Hui Shuang said, "Moreover, after we annihilate old geezer He Kong, the territory under his command will naturally be divided among the 4 of us. At that time, if others want to encroach on it, they'll have to ask us first." Ling Feng was greatly tempted by these words. Now, besides the territory that originally belonged to Heiting, Region Lord Xuanning, and Region Lord Huang Ho also possessed the territories of Region Lord Heiting. Just the number of Tao crystal that could be collected every day in these territories was enough to make anyone drool. "All right, let's do that." Ling Feng readily agreed. Not only would he be able to kill old man He Kong and deal with a potential great threat, but he would also be able to obtain great benefits. This caused him to suddenly feel that this operation was killing 2 birds with 1 stone instead of a great thing. Seeing this, the Nether Moon Region Lord and the other 2 laughed. "When do we act?" the Cold Wind Region Lord asked. "There's no time to lose. Let's go now." The Nether Moon Region Lord stood up, his pair of demonic blue eyes filled with murderous intent. 1 day later, Tianwu Mountain. The Nether Moon Region Lord and the other 3 arrived through the void. Each of them revealed the terrifying power that belonged to the Emperor realm, and their murderous intent covered the entire area. When they saw this scene, the experts under the He Kong Region Lord were all scared out of their wits, as if they had fallen into an ice cave. "It's over." No one had expected that revenge would come so quickly. Moreover, an entire 4 region lords had come to kill them all at once. This was simply a calamity that could cause anyone to feel despair. "Old man He Kong, get out here!" the Nether Moon Region Lord bellowed, his voice like thunder, resounding through the world. The entire Tianwu Mountain was in chaos. Many figures were fleeing for their lives, lest they be affected by the impending war. Even Quasi-Emperor Lai Guang chose to flee at the first moment. There was simply no way to resist. Resisting was akin to a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It was no different from courting death. In this dangerous and turbulent dark world, the most valuable thing was loyalty, and the least valuable thing was also loyalty. It was not uncommon for people to flee in the face of disaster. The Nether Moon Region Lord and the others ignored those who fled. They knew very well that as long as they killed the Haikong Region Lord, the forces controlled by the Haikong Region Lord would fall apart overnight. Without a leader, the monkeys would scatter when the tree falls. However, what the Nether Moon Region Lord and the others did not expect was that when they broke into the Tianwu Mountain and searched everywhere, they did not see the Haikong Region Lord. Fei Ya's face darkened. Damn it, that old thing is not here. Could it be that he also sensed that something was wrong and hid? They had come aggressively, but who would have thought that they would not find the target's lair? Damn it! The Cold Wind Region Lord was so angry that he struck out with his palm. Boom! The towering, majestic Tianwu Mountain was smashed into pieces and turned into dust that filled the sky. The Cold Wind Region Lord gritted his teeth. If we can't find the old man Haikong, even if we destroy all the forces under his command, he will make a comeback sooner or later. The Nether Moon Region Lord and the others also looked ugly. If the old man Haikong did not die, once he learned that the four of them had joined forces to kill him, how could he not retaliate? The thought of the encounter of Xuanning and Huang Ho made the Nether Moon Region Lord and the others feel depressed. Everyone, we must find the old man Haikong as soon as possible. Otherwise, the longer we delay, the more disadvantageous it will be for us. Taking a deep breath, Domain Lord Hui Shuang said coldly. The Cold Wind Region Master said, "If that old man Haikong wants to hide, how can we find him?" "That's easy." The Nether Moon Region Lord gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go together and slaughter in the old man Haikong's territory. If we destroy all the forces under his command, how can he not show up?" Fei Ya's expression changed. "That's too cruel. What if the old man Haikong goes crazy and kills his way to our territory to retaliate? Now that things have come to this, how can we care about this?" The Cold Wind Region Lord's expression was ruthless. "As long as we can force the old man Haikong out and kill him, we can get rid of him once and for all. Otherwise, we won't be able to eat and sleep in peace in the future." On this day, 4 domain lords attacked like a storm, wreaking havoc in the territory of the Haikong Region Lord, setting off a bloody massacre. How could an Emperor Realm expert be ordinary? What's more, 4 Emperor Realm experts attacked together. In less than a day, the territory of the Haikong Region Lord fell into chaos. Fleeing figures were everywhere. Crazy, those domain lords are all crazy. When he heard the news, Jiling was also bitterly disappointed. He never thought that the revenge of those domain lords would come so quickly, and so ruthlessly and coldly. What about Senior Dao Yuan, where is he now? Jiling was anxious. P.S. The 5th update is here. Continue tomorrow. Chapter 2177. There was no good or evil, black or white, right or wrong in the dark world. There was only life and death. In order to force Haikong out, Mingyu, Lin Feng, Fei Ya, and Hui Shuang, who were Emperor Realm existences, could mercilessly slaughter the subordinates of Haikong without any scruples. In the dark world, all living beings were like grass. Gale City. The streets were empty and desolate, and no one could be seen. It was dusk, and the afterglow was like blood. On top of the city wall, the 4 domain lords were either sitting or standing, emitting Emperor Realm aura that covered the sky and earth. It was like a forbidden area that ghosts and gods dared not cross. I didn't expect Haikong to be able to endure. Nether Moon Domain Lord sighed. Fei Ya's expression was gloomy. If my subordinates die, I can win them over and cultivate them in the future. If Haikong dies, there will be nothing left. It had been 3 days. In the past 3 days, they had joined forces to roam the territory of Region Lord Haikong. They were like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds as they slaughtered everywhere. Any powerhouse who had a relationship with Haikong Territory Lord would be their target to kill. Up until now, almost all the subordinates that had once attached themselves to Region Lord Haikong had been killed by them. But until now, there was no movement from Hei Kong at all. Nether Moon Domain Lord suddenly asked, Daoist Hui Shuang, have you found out the whereabouts of Sword Demon Dao Abyss? The others also looked at Domain Lord Hui Shuang. Sword Demon Dao Abyss. An expert who suddenly rose like a comet a few months ago was regarded as the most outstanding general under Hei Kong's command. Now, even Emperor Realm existences like Nether Moon Domain Lord were familiar with this name. This made them very clear that as long as they captured Sword Demon Dao Abyss, they might be able to force Hei Kong out. No, this person's whereabouts are erratic. Almost no one knows where he went. When Domain Lord Hui Shuang spoke up to hear, she changed the topic. However, someone said that a great sage called Jiling has been serving the Sword Demon Dao Abyss. Moreover, Jiling appeared in Silver City not long ago. Where is Silver City? 39,000 miles from here. There's no time to lose. Instead of waiting here, it's better to try our luck. The group of people immediately made a decision. However, just as they were about to take action, they suddenly noticed a figure walking over from the vast mountains and rivers far away from the city. His tall figure bathed beneath the rays of the setting sun and was suffused with a mysterious and ethereal aura. The Nether Moon Domain Lord and the others revealed a look of surprise. When they arrived at Gale City, all the cultivators within and outside the city had fled in panic like stray dogs. But now, someone had actually taken the initiative to come over, and this was undoubtedly very unusual. A cold light flashed in Domain Master Hui Shuang's eyes. It's him, that Sword Demon Dao Abyss. I've seen his portrait before. Sword Demon Dao Abyss. The Nether Moon Domain Lord and the others were startled. They were just about to go look for this boy, but who would have thought that he would take the initiative to come to them? Haha, I've searched far and wide for it, only to find it by chance. Region Master Feya laughed, and joy flashed in her eyes. Why do I feel that the situation isn't right? The Cold Wind Region Master frowned. Although they didn't pay attention to a character like Sword Demon Dao Abyss, how could he have such a reputation? It was impossible for such a character to be stupid enough to come to die. Don't act rashly. The Nether Moon Domain Lord said calmly. No matter what this boy is up to since he is here, perhaps it proves that Hei Kong can't sit still. The others nodded. The four emperors who had experienced many dangers and lived in the Dark World for many years were naturally not afraid of a quasi-emperor Ju Shi. When Lin Sun's figure arrived at a place thousands of meters away from the city, he stood in the void. He carried the ancient bronze sword case on his back. His figure was tall and his black eyes were clear. He sighed softly. I'm really ashamed. I went to Fengxiao Mountain before, and when I came here in a hurry, I found that I've kept you waiting for a long time. Fengxiao Mountain. This was the lair of the Cold Wind Region Lord. For a moment, the Nether Moon Domain Lord and the others were shocked. A few days ago, the territory of the Yellow Marquis Region Lord had just been annexed by Hei Kong, and now the Sword Demon Dao Abyss appeared in the territory controlled by the Cold Wind Region Lord. Did this mean that Hei Kong had already begun to annex the territory of the Cold Wind Region Lord? Little thing, don't be alarmist. Do you want to break into Fengxiao Mountain? It's ridiculous. The Cold Wind Region Lord's voice was like a thunder, shaking the world. Lin Sun looked calm. It doesn't matter now whether it's ridiculous or not. What's important is that the four of you are here together, so I don't have to work hard anymore. It's a good thing. You don't want to deal with the four of us alone? The Nether Moon Domain Lord showed a look of disbelief. The other region lords were also stunned. Lin Sun patted the sword case on his back and said, There is a sword in it, please have a look. Clang. The sound of the sword was like a tide, resounding through the sky. As the leaf flew out of the sword box, a boundlessly terrifying sword intent spread out. It was extremely sharp and extremely ferocious. The astonishment on the faces of the Nether Moon Region Lord and the others froze. They finally understood why such a peerless quasi-emperor dared to come alone so fearlessly. The aura of the sword spirit was so strong that it shook the stars. The sword intent stretched across the sky, making them feel a stabbing pain in their bodies and extremely depressed. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that a sword spirit could have such a fierce and heaven-defying momentum. 1, 2, 3, 4, but none of them is above the third level of the Emperor realm. Yi seemed a little disappointed and sighed. Lin Sun, do you believe that I can suppress them all with just one sword? One sword? The corner of Lin Sun's mouth twitched. Yi had never been a sword spirit who liked to boast. Since he said so, he naturally had great confidence. However, when he thought that Yi dared to suppress 4 region lords with one sword, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. At the same time, the faces of the Nether Moon region lord and the others became gloomy. Their eyes flickered with surprise, anger and doubt. Ye's words deeply hurt their self-esteem as Emperor Realm experts, a feeling they hadn't experienced for a long time. Let's do it together? The Nether Moon region lord said in a low voice. Good. The other region lords revealed a fierce look. As they operated their chi, the terrifying pressure of the Emperor Realm spread like a landslide and tsunami, covering the mountains and rivers. Under their feet, in the huge Liaguang city, countless buildings burst into pieces, the streets sank, and the city walls collapsed. In a flash, the city turned into ruins filled with smoke and dust. Just the power of the Emperor Realm was enough to destroy a city. Lin Sun stood motionless. His vision and divine sense were suppressed by the terrible power of the Emperor Realm, and he felt an unprecedented sense of suffocation. This made him realize that even with his current cultivation, he had the foundation to compete with the first level of the Emperor Realm. But in the face of 4 Emperor Realm experts who had countless killing experiences and were at their peak state, he still seemed too weak. The most important thing was that none of the opponents were at the first level of the Emperor Realm. It was extremely rare for Lin Sun to be able to stand there steadily. He was sure that if it was someone else in the same realm, it would be impossible for them to perform better than him. Boom! The battle broke out without any suspense. The world was shaking, and the vast mountains and rivers nearby were affected by the terrible impact. They were erased from the earth like a piece of paper. The sound of the Tao roared, and the blazing Emperor Realm law penetrated the 9 heavens and 10 earths, crushing the universe. Such a scene could shake the ages and make all living beings tremble. In the face of this terrible scene, Yi shook his wrist, looked solemn, and whispered, "My sword can reach." When the voice sounded, a sword chi swept out. This vast and chaotic world was illuminated by a ray of light, suppressing everything and becoming the only immortal. Heaven and earth decline. When this sword chi fell, a shocking scene appeared. The sky, the earth, and everything in the world, like withered leaves, turned into ashes and annihilated in the endless sword light. If the world was a painting, then this sword was like a fire, burning the painting to ashes. It was terrible. It was incredible. After a long time, when the smoke and dust dispersed, when the scenes of chaos and destruction disappeared, the true appearance of the world was revealed. All directions had already been reduced to ruins. Everywhere was a scene of collapse, exhaustion, and destruction. A gust of wind blew, and there was still a heart-palpitating aura in the void. Lin Sun, who stood alone on the ruins, seemed to wake up from a dream and let out a long breath. And in his eyes there was lingering shock. The power of the Emperor Realm destroyed a city. And Yi suppressed 4 emperors with one sword. At this time, Lin Sun clearly saw that Mingyu, Lin Feng, Fei Ye, and Hui Shuang were all lying in the ruins, bleeding all over, seriously injured, and dying. This was the power of Ye's sword. Lin Sun was also a person who had seen the world. He had experienced the game of chess and witnessed the great power of the senior brothers and sisters of Mountain Heart. But at this moment, he couldn't help but be amazed by Ye's sword. If I were at my peak, I wouldn't be so tired. Yi stood on Lin Sun's shoulder, gasped several times, and said seriously, It seemed that he was not very satisfied with his sword. Lin Sun's lips twitched. What else could he say? On this day, Mingyu, Lin Feng, Fei Ye, and Hui Shuang were all suppressed in the territory of Heikong. As soon as the news came out, the Cold Sky territory was shocked, and countless strongmen were shocked. Until now, in just 2 months, Heikong had annexed the territories of Xuening and Huanghe, and destroyed the joint attack of the four. Such an achievement that was sufficient to shine for 1,000 years and shock the ages even caused others to feel as if they were dreaming, and it was so unreal. When did Heikong become so powerful? This was the doubt of countless people. After all, in those years, although Heikong was powerful, he could barely rank in the middle among the top 10. But now, in just 2 months, he expanded his territory like a hot knife through butter, and defeated 6 regional lords one after another. He seemed to be a completely different person. P.S. After posting 5 updates yesterday, I only received a dozen or so monthly votes in one day. What a miserable comparison. Chapter 2178. The name of Heikong shook the Cold Sky territory. The fame of Lin Sun's Sword Demon Abyss also spread further. Although he was not at the peak, he was a dazzling figure that everyone knew. But no one knew that Heikong, Xuening, Huanghe, and Mingyu were all suppressed in the Tower of Ceaseless Wei. Jiling vaguely guessed some of the secrets, but he didn't dare to think too much about it, because the truth was so terrible that he could only pretend to be ignorant. After this earth-shattering battle, the Black Serpent Region Lord's exceptionally eye-catching battle finally attracted the attention of the first Region Lord of the Cold Sky Domain, the Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor. Miaoyun Mountain, the place where Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor resided. Fellow Wind Slaughter, if you don't stop it, I'm afraid the Cold Sky territory will belong to Heikong in the future. In a palace, an old man in a gray robe and a feather crown said with a face full of indignation. That's right. The 2 of us have come this time to listen to fellow Feng Tu's suggestion and make a decision regarding Heikong's evil deeds. Another man in a luxurious robe with eyes as sharp as swords said. The old man in a gray robe and this man were Red Rain Region Lord and Xian Chong Region Lord of the Cold Sky territory. At present, in the Cold Sky territory, only the territory controlled by Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor and them hadn't been annexed. However, if the lips were gone, the teeth would be cold. Seeing the expansion of the Black Serpent Region Lord's power like a single spark setting a prairie ablaze, the 2 Region Lords completely panicked. Therefore, they came to visit together, hoping that Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor could stop all this. This old man Heikong has gone too far. Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor sitting in the seat of honor said in a majestic voice. He had white hair, triangular eyes, a hooked nose, and wore a navy blue robe, exuding a cold and frightening aura. He said indifferently, "Don't panic. Now that things have come to this, I won't stand by and watch, and I won't let Heikong act recklessly." Red Rain Region Lord and Xian Chong Region Lord were shocked. The Windfall Demon Emperor was the strongest amongst the 10 great territory lords, and he'd stepped into the 3rd level of the Emperor realm a long time ago. Most importantly, the Wind Massacre Demon Emperor was an elder of the godly illuminating ancient sect. With this identity, no one in the realm of Cold Sky would dare to offend him. After all, the realm of Cold Sky was under the control of the divine illuminating ancient sect. Men, send a message to me. Tell that old man Heiting to come and beg for forgiveness within 3 days. If he doesn't come, then he'll have to bear the consequences. The Wind Massacre Demon Emperor spoke, his voice echoing throughout the hall. Offer a humble apology? Isn't that letting that old thing off too easily? Region Mistress Red Rain was puzzled. The Wind-Slaying Demon Monarch said slowly, "This is only a test. If he comes here to repent and beg for forgiveness, it proves that he still has respect for the godly illuminating ancient sect. I will not threaten him with death." But what if he doesn't come? Region Master Xian Chong asked. Wind Massacre Demon Monarch said expressionlessly, That will be the time of He Kong's destruction. On this day, demon monarch Feng Tu sent a secret letter to the godly illuminating ancient sect to report He Kong's evil deed. He requested for the godly illuminating ancient sect to send experts to suppress him. The godly illuminating ancient sect. It was established in a vast and sacred arcane realm. This arcane realm was filled with spiritual mountains, rivers, and grotto heavens. Divine light shone down, auspicious clouds swirled, and even the air was filled with a thick chaotic aura. Compared to the world of darkness where chi was sparse and resources were scarce, it was like a legendary paradise. This was the reason why the godly illuminating ancient sect was one of the 3 leaders of the dark world. The truth was, this arcane realm was not a natural land of fortune, it was created by the combined efforts of the godly illuminating ancient sect's elders. There were rumors in the outside world that the godly illuminating ancient sect had to consume hundreds of millions of Taoist crystals just to maintain the operation of this arcane realm. Inside a dojo, green bamboos danced in the wind, and auspicious light shone down. A group of figures were sitting casually. The one sitting in the middle was a handsome man wearing a wide-sleeved robe. His black hair draped loosely over his shoulders, and his eyes were deep and dazzling. Strands of the laws of the Grand Tao coiled around him like an illusory dream, and then a completely round wheel of light appeared behind him. The light wheel revolved and formed the phenomenon of the world. The sect master of the godly illuminating ancient sect, Yu Kuan-zi, a supreme figure that had presided over the world of darkness for countless years, and he was called the Hand of Darkness. The other figures that sat on the dojo were all great figures of the godly illuminating ancient sect. Every single one of them possessed a supreme and dignified aura, and a slight movement from them could cause the world of darkness to tremble. Everyone, the 3rd tribulation of oblivion in the history of the world of darkness will descend a year from now, and the legendary rebirth of freedom will appear along with it. This is both a supreme fortune and an unpredictable calamity. According to the news I've received, the all-heavens forces on the starry sky ancient path have already begun to make preparations for this. Yu Kuan-zi's voice resounded like the morning bell and the evening drum, and it drifted through the heavens and the earth. Our godly illuminating ancient sect is naturally planning for this as well. All the great figures present here had various thoughts in their minds. The path of the eternal exalt, rebirth of freedom. The eternal tribulation of oblivion, a single lotus blooms. This was a Taoist poem that had been passed down from the very beginning of the primeval times, and it was related to the tribulation of oblivion. It contained profundities within it, and it caused one's imagination to run wild. The tribulation of oblivion was the tribulation of oblivion that had descended into the world of darkness at the very beginning of the primeval times and primeval times. No matter if it was Buddhist cultivators or other sects, lotus flowers were taken to be auspicious divine objects, and they represented fortune and fortune. The only thing that was difficult to figure out yet extremely tempting was perhaps the meaning of the path of an exalt. At this point in the universe, regardless of which sect or senior it was, all of them felt that the eternal path to the exalted realm would appear in nirvanic freedom. As for exactly what this path of an exalt looked like and what sort of profundities it contained, no one was able to give a clear answer. Suddenly, someone asked, "Sect Master, is this tribulation of oblivion related to the order of the forbidden path?" Just these words caused the pupils of everyone present here to constrict. Presently, once the energy of the order of the forbidden path was controlled once more by Heavenly Emperor Shi, it caused one's heart to palpitate. It's probably not related. Yu Kuan-zi's eyes surged with a divine glow. Everyone, don't forget that at the very beginning of the primeval times, when the first tribulation of oblivion descended, the energy of the order of the forbidden path that came from the other side of the starry sky hadn't appeared on the ancient starry sky path. Someone asked, "Speaking of the order of the forbidden path, Is there any news about the disciple of Mount Innerheart, Lin Sun? Lin Sun. Yu Kuan-zi went silent for a short moment before he said, "The forces of our divine illumination sect, the Hidden Land Realm, and Copper Sparrow Pavilion throughout the entire world are searching for this kid's whereabouts. I heard that merely a few thousand people have been captured from the territories controlled by the Hidden Land Realm. Unfortunately, none of them are the disciple of Mount Innerheart, Lin Sun. The territories controlled by our divine illumination sect are more or less the same. But everyone knows that the world of darkness has always been a place of refuge for fugitives, and countless bloody battles erupt there every single day. No power would go all out to search for this kid. Most importantly, the power that this kid possesses now is different from before. When he was in the primordial world, he already possessed the ability to kill an Emperor Realm figure. Now that he's in the world of darkness, if he wants to hide, there's practically no chance of catching him." When he spoke up to hear, Yu Kuan-zi couldn't help but sigh. The other great figures of the divine illumination sect frowned. Someone asked, "What about Copper Sparrow Pavilion? They've always boasted of being the guardians of the order of the world of darkness, especially their tower master. He's arrogant to the point of looking down on everyone. With their strength, they can't even find the slightest clue?" Copper Sparrow Pavilion? A cold light flashed in Yu Kuan-zi's eyes, and he said disdainfully, "There's no need to count on it. If we're talking about the most arrogant person in the world of darkness, then it's definitely the Copper Sparrow Pavilion master. But no matter how arrogant and domineering he is, he's long gone into hiding." Everyone couldn't help but laugh. The last time Shi Tiandi came to the world of darkness, he'd asked the Copper Sparrow Pavilion master to pay a visit. But in the end, the Copper Sparrow Pavilion spread the news that the Copper Sparrow Pavilion master had already gone to the other side of the starry sky. When Shi Tiandi learned of this, he only said one sentence: "If he doesn't come to pay a visit today, I'll make him bring his head to me in the future." It was also because of this that the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect and the Hidden Land Realm realized that the Copper Sparrow Pavilion had completely offended Shi Tiandi, and it wouldn't be long before they encountered a great crisis. It's a pity that I don't know what Shi Tiandi was thinking. Not long after arriving in the world of darkness, he left in a hurry and headed for the ultimate. Otherwise, no matter where the Copper Sparrow Pavilion master was hiding, he would probably be found by Shi Tiandi immediately. Yu Kuan-zi said with some regret. "Does the sect master know why Shi Tiandi went to the ultimate?" a great ancestor asked. "Who can guess the thoughts of a supreme existence like him?" Yu Kuan-zi shook his head. "However, as you all know, the mountain sect of Fangsuan used to be entrenched in the ultimate. Although it was destroyed in ancient times, it was still the location of the ancestral court of Fangsun. I suspect that the purpose of Shi Tiandi going to the ultimate is to investigate something there." As they were talking, someone suddenly came to report, "Lord Sect Master, Elder Feng Tu of the Domain of Cold Sky has sent a message." A jade letter was delivered to Yu Kuan-zi. Yu Kuan-zi opened the letter and immediately raised his eyebrows. A small domain master almost conquered an entire domain in 2 months. No wonder Feng Tu couldn't sit still and asked for help from the sect. At this point, Yu Kuan-zi raised the letter in his hand and glanced at the big shots present. "Something unexpected has happened in the domain of Cold Sky. Who is willing to go there?" As soon as he finished speaking, a tall and skinny man in a black robe stood up. After a long stretch, he said unhurriedly, "I haven't been out for a long time. This matter, let me handle it." Everyone present was startled. Chapter 2179. Silver City. In the city governor's mansion, a spirit-gathering formation rumbled and ran. Countless Taoist gems turned into a torrent of spiritual energy and were absorbed by Lin Sun, who was sitting cross-legged in the formation. The spiritual energy in the dark world was thin and barren, so Lin Sun had to rely on cultivation resources to meet his need. Moreover, he had a strong foundation, and the resources he needed for cultivation were amazing, far beyond those in the same realm. Fortunately, he had fought in the north and south during these 2 months and plundered the wealth of city after city, so he didn't have to worry about cultivating. For example, the Taoist gems he had now reached more than 180 billion. Most of them came from the 7 region lords, including Heiting and Xuanning. They had been operating in the Cold Sky territory for many years, and each of them had accumulated an amazing amount of wealth. Now they all fell into Lin Sun's pocket. Of course, in addition to the Taoist gems, Lin Sun also got some other treasures, such as elixirs, rare treasures, and sovereign weapons, which were priceless. But Lin Sun didn't dare to be satisfied. First, he needed a steady stream of resources for his cultivation, and second, Wu Kei and the Broken Blade Spirit also needed to refine sovereign weapons to restore their vitality. Perhaps Lin Sun didn't have to worry about Yezi the most. With the bronze sword box, Yezi seemed to have found a paradise. He could practice swordsmanship and restore his vitality at the same time. Boom! Several hours later, the spirit-gathering formation stopped running, and the power contained in a total of 490,000 Taoist gems was absorbed by Lin Sun and turned into powder. Whoosh! Whoosh! As Lin Sun thought of it, Greenwood Taoist Body, Scarlet Fire Taoist Body, and Black Water Taoist Body emerged one by one and sat on one side. Among them, Black Water Taoist Body had just condensed its consciousness and cultivation a few days ago. At that time, Lin Sun imparted some of his inherited Taoist scriptures to Black Water Taoist Body. After the 3 Taoist bodies appeared, they all transmitted a wave of consciousness and had a wonderful communication with Lin Sun's spirit. Suddenly, all kinds of insights and wonderful methods emerged in Lin Sun's mind like a tide and turned into a part of his own cultivation. And Lin Sun's cultivation and power of the Great Path also produced a kind of feedback, which was comprehended by the 3 Great Path avatars one by one. In this mutual resonance and blended comprehension, Lin Sun's cultivation was like overflowing water, naturally breaking through to the 3rd heaven of Quasi-Emperor. At this instant, the vital energy in his body seethed and roared while boundless light of the Tao flowed and seethed, and his terrifying imposing aura that rose steadily caused this expanse of the heavens and the earth to suddenly tremble. If he had not laid down the restrictive array, this kind of movement alone would have caused unimaginable damage to Silver City. After a long while, the strange phenomenon around Lin Sun's body quieted down little by little. His whole body was full of qi, and his whole body glowed with a kind of ethereal aura like an immortal. Just a breath was enough to make the nearby void tremble like ripples. That kind of invisible power was especially powerful. Lin Sun clearly felt that compared with before, his combat power was far more than doubled. This sort of strength wasn't just a breakthrough in his cultivation, it was also a tremendous transformation in his own understanding and comprehension of the Grand Tao, and his understanding and grasp of Tao art. My Tao is even closer to being flawless, Lin Sun carefully experienced. The law of the Great Tao controlled by a quasi-emperor was regarded as an incomplete law of the emperor realm. But since Lin Sun set foot on the peak of the quasi-emperor realm, the law of the quasi-emperor he controlled was almost complete, and was not much different from the real law of the emperor realm. And at this time, with the transformation of his own cultivation, with a deeper understanding of the Great Tao, the law of the quasi-emperor he controlled, except for the limitation of his own cultivation, was almost no different from the real law of the emperor realm. This was undoubtedly incredible. His cultivation had not yet reached the emperor realm, but the power of the Great Tao he controlled was almost the same as that of the emperor realm. From ancient times to the present, there had never been a quasi-emperor who could achieve this step. It was not an exaggeration to call it unprecedented, unparalleled. It's time to try to see what level my strength has reached now. Lin Sun got up and left the city lord's mansion. An hour later, In a vast stretch of mountains and rivers far away from Silver City, an earth-shattering battle had just come to an end. Here, mountains collapsed, rocks turned to ash, and there was chaos and turbulence. The Sword Emperor of the chaotic sky had a bloody nose and a swollen face. He crawled up from the ground and raised his head with difficulty, his expression full of confusion. Ever since he was suppressed in the great Tao bottomless tower, he was like a prisoner, reduced to a living target of Lin Sun, used when needed, and directly thrown aside when not needed. And just now, he once again became a living target, used by Lin Sun to test his own combat strength. This time, Yi did not interfere, allowing the Sword Emperor of the chaotic sky to exert his full combat strength, but in the end, he was suppressed. This blow was too great for the Sword Emperor of the chaotic sky to accept. It should be known that back in the Hongmeng world, Lin Sun could only fight against him at most with 40% of his combat strength. But now, only about half a year had passed, and he was still no match for Lin Sun even if he exerted his full combat strength. A quasi-emperor who could suppress an emperor realm expert, if this news were to spread, was bound to break the inherent understanding of the world and subvert the views of all cultivators. The emperor realm was like a natural moat that could not be crossed? But at least, in today's world, there was one person who had crossed it. At the same time, Lin Sun was lost in thought. The Sword Emperor of the chaotic sky was seriously injured after all, and even if he went all out, he could not be compared to his peak. And it was under such circumstances that although he was not injured when he defeated the opponent, he had consumed most of his strength. Lin Sun was thinking, if he were to face an expert at the peak of the first level of the Emperor realm, with his current combat strength, what were the chances of winning? If the three great Tao doppelgangers were to be dispatched together, and together with the deity, would there be a greater chance of winning? Similarly, if he used the immeasurable saber, infinite bottle, and other killing weapons, would there be a greater chance of winning? The only thing Lin Sun could be sure of was that if he used the forbidden passing magical power, it would not be difficult to kill such an Emperor realm expert. Few after a while, Lin Sun let out a long breath and suddenly said, "Sword Emperor of the chaotic sky, if you are willing to surrender to me, I will not treat you unfairly in the future. Think about it carefully." The Sword Emperor of the chaotic sky was taken aback, and before he could react, he was once again suppressed into the great Tao bottomless tower. When Lin Sun returned to Silver City, Ji Lung had already been waiting there anxiously. "Senior, things are not good. The wind-killing demon emperor has ordered that the region Lord He Kong should go to Miaoyun Mountain to apologize within 3 days." Ji Lung quickly told the news he had just received, otherwise, he will be at his own risk. Offering a humble apology? Lin Sun's black eyes were dark and cold. "Yes, although this order is directed at the region Lord He Kong, but, when he spoke up to hear, Ji Lung suddenly shut his mouth. He was just a little bit away from speaking the truth that he'd guessed. Lin Sun glanced at him. "Do you already suspect that the region Lord He Kong was killed by me?" Ji Lung stiffened all over, and just as he was about to say something, Lin Sun nodded and said, "Although you guessed wrong, it is not much different." Although Lin Sun's answer was a little vague, Ji Lung did not dare to think about it anymore. Instead, he said, "Senior, the wind-killing demon emperor is the first region lord of the cold sky territory, and he is also an elder of the divine sunshine ancient sect. If you offend him, it is equal to offending the divine sunshine ancient sect." His words were full of anxiety and worry. "In this way, whether you go to apologize or not, it is not good. It is just the divine sunshine ancient sect. What are you afraid of?" Lin Sun smiled disapprovingly. In these years, he had killed countless descendants of the divine sunshine ancient sect, so he did not care about this. Moreover, in the past 2 months, he had made such a big noise in the cold sky territory. On the one hand, he wanted to make a name for himself, and on the other hand, he wanted to fight with the divine sunshine ancient sect. What are you afraid of in the dark world, except for the hidden land realm and the bronze sparrow tower, who was not afraid of the divine sunshine ancient sect? From today on, you will take over all the territories and forces left by the region lord of Haikong. Those who have been affected by the nightmare of fear will listen to your orders. Lin soon made a decision. You have to remember that you can only act in the dark. Once your identity is exposed, you will be in danger. Hearing this, Ji Lung immediately guessed something. Senior, are you planning to leave? Lin Sun nodded. I just want to make some preparations and be on guard in advance. 2 months had passed, and his name, Sword Demon Tao Abyss, had long been famous in the Cold Sky territory. If Ruashi came to the Dark World, she would definitely be able to find out this information easily. And this time, the conflict with the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect was inevitable. In the face of the threat of Wind-Killing Demon Emperor, he could just leave, because the Region Lord Haikong had always been the scapegoat. Therefore, whether he went to see Wind-Killing Demon Emperor or not would not be affected at all. But Lin Sun did not intend to do so. He might be able to leave, but as long as Wind-Killing Demon Emperor carefully investigated, he would definitely find out through various clues that the mastermind behind the turmoil in the Cold Sky territory was his Sword Demon Tao Abyss. And the identity of Sword Demon Tao Abyss could not stand up to scrutiny at all. As long as he was careful, it was very likely that he would be able to speculate his true identity. After all, the whole world already knew that he, the Quasi-Emperor Zhu Shi, had the power to kill an Emperor Realm expert. And the fact that the Region Lord Haikong and the others were suppressed would also make the enemy more and more certain that Sword Demon Tao Abyss was Lin Sun. Therefore, Lin Sun decided to see Wind-Killing Demon Emperor. It would be best if he could also suppress him without attracting too much attention. Of course, the worst result was nothing more than his identity being exposed. For Lin Sun, it was no big deal to leave the Cold Sky territory. On this day, Lin Sun left Silver City and went alone to the place where the first region lord of the Cold Sky territory, Wind-Killing Demon Emperor, Miaoyun Mountain. Chapter 2180. Miaoyun Mountain. In a magnificent palace, Demon Emperor Feng Tu was drinking wine with the 2 region lords, Hong Yu and Xian Chong. Demon Emperor Feng Tu was talking cheerfully, but the 2 region lords, Hong Yu and Xian Chong, seemed to have lost their appetite. They were still worried that the region lord of Haikong would take advantage of their absence to swallow up the territory they controlled. There's no need to panic. My Divine Illumination Ancient Sect will send experts over in less than a day. At that time, it doesn't matter if Old Man Haikong apologizes or not, he won't be able to escape. The Wind Massacre Demon Monarch smiled faintly. Just as he was about to gulp down the wine in his cup, he suddenly sensed something and looked outside the hall. A figure had appeared out of nowhere. He was tall and thin, and his reflection on the ground was a huge shadow. The shadow had 8 heads the size of a house and 8 tails the size of a mountain ridge. Puff! The wine cup in Demon Emperor Feng Tu's hand fell to the ground and the wine spilled, but he didn't notice it at all. His body stiffened and his eyes stared blankly. He didn't expect that the person the sect would send to support him would be this ruthless person who was famous for being cruel and bloodthirsty. Your heart is twitching. If your heart is cut out now, it will definitely taste extraordinary. Accompanied by a low, hoarse, and cold voice, the figure walked slowly into the palace. At this moment, Region Lord Hong Yu and Region Lord Xian Chong felt suffocated. It was as if they saw endless darkness surging over and drowning the palace. Boundless fear spread through their bodies like a cold current. A name appeared in their minds at the same time: Great Emperor Baki, the most ruthless and cruel Great Emperor in the Dark World. In order to refine a demon weapon, he mercilessly slaughtered millions of living beings. He once entered a primordial battlefield alone and collected countless heroic souls that were left behind in it. He devoured them one by one just to cultivate a terrifying secret technique. According to legend, Great Emperor Baki's original body was a primordial variant serpent that was born from a muddy source and had 8 heads and 8 tails. Each head controlled an evil innate divine ability that they were born with. The dark world was never short of ferocious people, but they were far inferior to Great Emperor Baki. Wind Massacre Demon Monarch felt as if his buttocks were being pricked by needles. He stood up abruptly and bowed his head. Wind Massacre greets martial uncle. After so many years, you're still too timid. The figure stopped and glanced at the wind-slaying Demon Monarch. He shook his head in disappointment. Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter kept quiet out of fear, not daring to refute. You don't have to be surprised. I came out of my secluded cultivation on a whim. I heard that there's some trouble in the realm of Cold Sky, so I came to take a look. The figure casually sat down. He was dressed in a black robe with wide sleeves. His face was fair and handsome, and his eyes were like scarlet gems, suffused with a demonic and deep cold luster. Even if he was merely sitting there casually, the aura that suffused his body was still boundlessly terrifying, and it revealed the phenomenon of mountains of corpses, seas of blood, and the wailing of ghosts and gods. The Red Rain Region Lord and the Xian Chong Region Lord began to tremble. Their faces were pale and they could not sit still. In the realm of Cold Sky, they were supreme existences that countless ruthless people feared and respected, but they did not even dare to raise their heads in front of Great Emperor Baki. Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter respectfully stood to the side and said in a low voice, "Martial uncle, with you here, even if it's a great disaster, it can be easily resolved." Great Emperor Baki responded with an expressionless face, "Wind Slaughter, you're already in the 3rd layer Martial Emperor realm, but you still don't understand that in our eyes, nothing is easy. Just like this Black Nightmare Demon Emperor, he was able to sweep through the realm of Cold Sky in 2 months, how can he be an ordinary person?" Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter's face stiffened, and he was extremely embarrassed. "Where is this person?" Great Emperor Baki asked. Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter hurriedly said, "I've already ordered him to come and beg for forgiveness within 3 days. If he's still afraid of our divine Sunlight Ancient sect, he will definitely come." Great Emperor Baki frowned, and a hint of displeasure flashed through his scarlet eyes. "If I'm the Black Nightmare Demon Emperor, I will definitely not be afraid of him since he dares to do this. You're too stupid to think that he's afraid of the sect." Cold sweat broke out on Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter's forehead. At this moment, he even regretted asking for help from the sect. Of all people, he had to send Martial Uncle Baki. It was like a nightmare. "I'll give you the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Gather all the information about the Black Nightmare Demon Emperor, including what he has done in the past 6 months. The more detailed, the better." Great Emperor Baki gave the order coldly. "Yes." Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter immediately agreed. As a matter of fact, as the first territory lord of the Cold Sky territory, Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter knew the Black Nightmare Demon Emperor too well. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he had already gathered all the information about the Black Nightmare Demon Emperor. Great Emperor Baki casually flipped through the information, but he did not find anything noteworthy. However, when he saw what had happened to the Black Nightmare Demon Emperor in the past 2 months, a strange look flashed across Great Emperor Baki's scarlet eyes. After a while, he raised his head and stared at Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter. Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter's hair stood on end and he felt uncomfortable all over. "If I'm not wrong, the Sword Demon Dao Abyss is the real culprit. As for the Black Nightmare Demon Emperor, he's just a scapegoat," Great Emperor Baki said. Great Emperor Baki's words stunned Demon Emperor Windslayer, Red Rain, and Xian Chong. "Sword Demon Dao Abyss? That's just a Jushi quasi-emperor. How could he be the real culprit?" Great Emperor Baki did not explain. He continued to read the information and said in a low voice, "Did the Sword Demon Dao Abyss really only appear in the Cold Sky territory in the past 2 months?" "Yes." Demon Monarch Wind Slaughter said without hesitation. Given this kid's courage and skill, it's impossible for no one to know about it if he was in the Cold Sky territory in the past. Great Emperor Baki suddenly laughed, and a strange divine light appeared in his scarlet pupils. No wonder I had a sudden impulse when I was breaking out of the closed-door training. It's because I'm about to reunite with that baby. At the end, there was a rare trace of emotion in his cold voice. A long time ago, he was ordered by his sect to come to the ancient desolation domain from the starry sky ancient path. He first sealed his cultivation with a forbidden secret technique and entered the extreme ancient domain with the identity of a quasi-emperor. Then, he sneaked into the Imperial Pass. After several twists and turns, he finally arrived at the ancient desolation domain. His goal was only to do one thing: to destroy the Great Wall of the Imperial Pass. In this way, the power of the divine illuminating ancient sect would be able to invade the ancient desolation domain and control this world that was regarded as the origin of all Daos. This was because, according to the ancient records of the divine illuminating ancient sect, the main battlefield of the 10-directional Dao War happened outside the Great Wall of the ancient desolation domain. Since the beginning of time, the Great Wall of the Imperial Pass had the title of the first heavenly chasm of the ancient desolation domain, the place where the Emperor realms stop. In fact, that was the core battlefield of the 10-directional Dao War. It was also during this battle that the ancient desolation domain was shattered. The origin of the world was shattered, turning into a small world that sank to the edge of the ultimate. During the 10-directional Dao War, the Emperor realm existences of the ancient desolation domain joined forces to defend the Great Wall of the Imperial Pass against the Nameless Emperor. They fought until heaven and earth were turned upside down. Even now, outside the Great Wall of the Imperial Pass, there were still the remnant souls of countless fallen ancient emperors, as well as pieces of world fragments. At that time, the divine illuminating ancient sect and the hidden land realm were forces under the Nameless Emperor. They also participated in this battle, but they suffered heavy casualties. In the end, after the 10-directional Dao War ended, the forbidden power of order controlled by the Nameless Emperor turned into 3 great disasters that covered the sky above the ancient desolation domain. However, the Great Wall of the Imperial Pass was not destroyed. It still stood tall on the frontline battlefield, as if it would never die. Therefore, for the divine illuminating ancient sect, only by destroying the Great Wall of the Imperial Pass could they truly control the ancient desolation domain and control this place of origin that was sealed by the Forbidden Order. That was why Bachi came back then. However, his cultivation was sealed, and he only had the power of the quasi-emperor realm. It was impossible for him to do this. Helpless, he had no choice but to go into hiding. For this, he even took over the body of an elder of the Heavenly Sword sect in the ancient desolation domain named Fan Chi, and took over his body. For Ba Chi, although his cultivation was sealed, he still had wisdom and inheritance. As long as he was carefully trained, he would definitely be able to cultivate a leader who could lead the ancient desolation domain. As long as he controlled this person, it was equivalent to controlling a chess piece that could overturn the ancient desolation domain in the future. Yun Qingbai was the successor he had chosen. In fact, Yun Qingbai did not disappoint him. In just a few decades, he showed an incomparably dazzling light and was regarded as the #1 person in the ancient desolation domain at the same level. But later, he accidentally heard that at the edge of the ultimate, a place regarded as the lower world, a baby boy with the talent of devouring the abyss was born devouring the abyss. Perhaps only the divine illuminating ancient sect and the hidden land realm, who had followed the orders of the previous nameless emperor, knew that this kind of talent did not belong to the ancient path of the starry sky at all. Then, Ba Chi took Yun Qingbai with him to the lower world without hesitation. However, He did not expect that the previous nameless emperor's willpower had already arrived one step ahead of him with the help of the Forbidden Order power. It was also at that time that Ba Qi learned that the previous nameless emperor, who had crossed the starry sky since the Archean Age, had only come to capture a woman named Luo Qingxuan. And the baby boy with the talent of devouring the abyss was the child of Luo Qingxuan. Later, the Forbidden Order power appeared and covered the sky above the Xiao Empire. Ba Qi took action and deprived the baby boy of his spiritual meridian. To this day, great Emperor Baki could still clearly remember the heart-wrenching cries of the infant lying in the swaddling clothes. Bright red blood gushed out from his chest that had been cut open. The only thing that made great Emperor Ba Qi regret was that after he deprived the baby boy of his spiritual meridian, before he had time to do anything else, an unexpected accident happened. The 4th chapter was delivered. The Great Wall of the Imperial Pass, which had stopped the Emperor realm from advancing since ancient times, the 10 great Taoist wars that had broken out, and what Ba Qi had done in the past, were all partly revealed in this chapter. So, let's not talk about goldfish water anymore. In addition, there was no more for tonight. In order to speed up the plot, the outline of the next chapter had to be redesigned. Chapter 2181. Back then, that accident happened too suddenly. Emperor Baki still had a lingering fear when he thought of it. The atmosphere in the hall was depressing. Looking at Emperor Baki, who seemed to be lost in thought, Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor, Red Rain Region Lord, and Xian Chong Region Lord were all shocked. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive, Wind Massacre Demon Monarch could not help but ask, "Martial Uncle, the baby you mentioned, could it be the Sword Demon Dao Abyss?" His words woke Emperor Baki up from his reminiscence. He nodded and said, "Yes, if I'm right, this boy should be called Lin Sun." Lin Sun. It was the successor of Mountain Heart. Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor and others couldn't believe it. How could it be him? I see. It is said that Lin Sun once killed Ice-Devouring Sword Emperor and other emperors in the Hongmeng world with his trump card, which made the whole Starry Sky ancient path in an uproar. Red Rain Region Lord was the first to react. Only a person like him can help He Kong to swallow up the territories of Xuanning, Huang Ho, and Mingyu. Right, the Sword Demon Dao Abyss only appeared out of nowhere 2 months ago, and it's absolutely impossible for old man He Kong to accomplish this by relying on his own strength. In this way, this kid might really be Lin Sun. Wind Slaughter Sword Emperor was suddenly excited. He never thought that the target that was chased by the whole dark world was right under his nose. "You're not too stupid." Emperor Baki's voice was indifferent. From now on, He Kong is no longer important. The most important thing is to find out the whereabouts of Lin Sun, who incarnated as Sword Demon Tao Abyss. "Uncle, don't worry. I'll mobilize all the forces to search for this boy." Wind Slaughter Sword Emperor took a deep breath and said with a murderous look, "No matter what, we must not let him escape from the Cold Sky territory this time." Red Rain Region Lord and Xian Chong were also in high spirit. Only Emperor Baki frowned and said as if he was looking at an idiot, "This boy has the means to kill emperors. What's the use of mobilizing more forces?" Wind Slaughter Demon Emperor's expression stagnated, and he felt a little embarrassed. In fact, he also felt a little scared. In fact, Lin Sun's identity as Quasi-Emperor Ju Shi was too easy to be despised and ignored. Especially for an emperor like him, he would never put anyone under the emperor realm in his eyes. But obviously Lin Sun was different. Not to mention the past, just in the last 2 months, 6 region lords, Xuanning, Huang Ho, Mingyu, Lin Feng, Fei Ye, and Hui Shuang, had been successively suppressed. This was obviously not something that the old man He Kong could do alone. Wind Massacre Demon Emperor even suspected that the old man He Kong had been suppressed a long time ago. Under such circumstances, it was no different from courting death for ordinary emperors to kill Lin Sun. Region Lord Hong Yu and Region Lord Xian Chong were obviously aware of this. Their expressions changed and they felt a chill in their hearts. If Emperor Baki didn't come this time, who else in the Cold Sky territory could be the enemy of Sword Devil Tao Abyss? No, Lin Sun, the successor of Mount Hardheart? Martial uncle, what do you think we should do? At this moment, the Wind Massacre Demon Emperor appeared incomparably humble as he humbly asked for guidance. This man walks in the dark world with the identity of Sword Devil Tao Abyss. Obviously, he is afraid that his identity will be exposed and he will be wanted by the whole world. Great Emperor Baki's eyes darkened, and a strange light flashed in his scarlet eyes. But he has turned the Cold Sky region upside down. He knows that the Divine Illumination Ancient Sect will not stand by and do nothing, but he still dares to do this. Tell me, why is he doing this? The Wind Massacre Demon Emperor and the others looked at each other and shook their heads. Great Emperor Baki said, I don't know either. But I'm sure that he won't give up until he achieves his goal after spending so much effort. This means that he won't leave the domain of Cold Sky in a short period of time. Speaking of this, he looked at the Wind Massacre Demon Emperor and said, Didn't you order He Kong to come and beg for forgiveness within 3 days? The Wind Massacre Demon Emperor nodded repeatedly. It's Lin Sun's call whether He Kong will come or not, and he will definitely realize that our Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect will take some action after this incident. Emperor Baki said in a low voice, but he won't give up what he has done. Under such circumstances, how will he get out of this situation? The Wind Massacre Demon Emperor said in a daze. He won't really come to beg for forgiveness, will he? Emperor Baki said, You guessed right. The Wind Massacre Demon Emperor was stunned. He just said it casually, and he didn't believe it himself. Unexpectedly, it seemed that his guess was right. Emperor Baki said, but he definitely won't come to beg for forgiveness, but to solve the problem in front of him. So, we just have to wait here. In the end, his voice became very certain. If Lin Sun was here, he would definitely be amazed by the meticulous analysis of Emperor Baki, who was almost right about the truth. This kind of mentality was undoubtedly very frightening. Just you wait. I want to see this kid as well. He should have died, but after losing his innate talent, he has miraculously lived until now. Moreover, he has done numerous great things that have shaken the starry sky in recent years. It's simply a miracle. Emperor Baki looked out of the hall with a hint of emotion on his face. He suddenly thought of Yun Qinbai. If Yun Qinbai hadn't died in the hands of Lin Sun in the Absolute Domain, he would also have such a foundation that could shock the starry sky. Such a chess piece that was born with a sword bone and refined the spiritual vein of the devouring abyss was destroyed just like that. What a pity. One day later, Lin Sun saw the Miaoyun mountain from afar. Yi, is it possible? He patted the bronze sword case on his back. It's still not enough. I can only maintain it for less than a quarter of an hour. Ye's calm voice sounded from the bronze sword case. It's more than enough to deal with the old guy from the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. Lin Sun smiled, stepped into the void, and swept towards the Miaoyun mountain in the distance. To his surprise, there was no defensive force on the Miaoyun mountain, and he couldn't even see the figures of some strong men. Could it be that the wind-slaying Sword Emperor had already guessed that I would come and was worried that the strong men under his command would be affected when the battle broke out, so he ordered them to retreat early? As Lin Sun was thinking, he suddenly noticed that a terrifying and cold willpower rushed out of the Miaoyun mountain and swept across the sky. In an instant, Lin Sun's pupils shrank and he stopped moving forward. A dignified expression appeared on his face. Lin Sun, we meet again after many years. An indifferent, hoarse voice sounded with a hint of emotion. With the voice, Emperor Baki, who was dressed in a black robe with wide sleeves, with a handsome face and scarlet eyes like gems, appeared out of thin air and stood on the Miaoyun mountain. Lin Sun suddenly raised his head and stared at the figure with his deep black eyes. He realized that he had underestimated the power of the divine Sunshine Ancient sect after all. Obviously, the opponent had seen through his identity. No wonder there's no one here. It turns out that you've been waiting for me for a long time. But, who are you? Lin Sun's state of mind recovered in an instant, and he looked calm. Emperor Baki laughed like an evil god standing under the sky. He said leisurely, "Don't you remember me? It was I who took out your spiritual vein and gave it to Yun Qingbai." Boom! As if being struck by lightning, Lin Sun, who was as tough as a rock, couldn't help shaking at this moment, and his face became cold. The killing intent and hatred accumulated in his heart for many years boiled like a raging river and sea, and he was about to lose control. Ba Qi, the culprit behind the Lin family's murder. Earlier, Lin Sun was still thinking about how to go to the Xingzhou ancient sect to meet his enemy whom he had never met. Unexpectedly, Ba Qi appeared in front of the Miaoyun mountain today. This really surprised Lin Sun. Emperor Baki sighed with emotion. "Speaking of which, I'm just as surprised as you are. But it seems that we're destined to meet here." This time, he came to the Cold Sky territory on a whim to solve the turmoil caused by the region Lord Heikong. But who would have thought that he would accidentally find the baby from back then? Therefore, seeing Lin Sun, who was silent at this moment, Emperor Baki understood Lin Sun's feelings very well. It was such a coincidence. Isn't it better? Taking a deep breath, Lin Sun was full of fighting intent. The long-suppressed killing intent and hatred surged all over his body like a landslide and a tsunami. He had endured for many years. At this moment, he didn't want to endure it anymore. He just needed to vent it out. From childhood to the present, his cultivation had been shrouded in the shadow of the Lin family's tragedy. His parents were missing, Master Lu's life was uncertain, and even his spiritual vein was ruthlessly deprived. Over the years, indescribable doubts, anger, and hatred were buried deep in his heart, reminding Lin Sun all the time that the culprit of these hatred was doomed to be unable to be eliminated as long as he was alive. For this reason, he went to the ancient Desolation Realm, experienced dangers and tribulations, and finally killed Yun Qingbai in the Absolute Summit domain. But in the end, he knew that the culprit behind the scenes was someone else, and Yun Qingbai was just a tragic figure who couldn't control his own fate later. He learned from the jade slips left by the old priest and the old priest that the culprit behind the scenes was from the Divine Sunshine Ancient sect, and the various conspiracies and truths behind the Lin family's murder that year. Without the help of the forbidden power of order, the Lin family's murder wouldn't have happened so easily in the mortal world. But all this couldn't change the fact that Ba Qi was the culprit. "I've been waiting for you for a long time," a cold voice full of hatred sounded. Lin Sun stood in the air with his clothes fluttering in the wind, and his black hair flying in the air. The horrible killing intent pierced through the world, making the mountains and rivers tremble and wail. He hated Ba Qi to the extreme today. For the first time since he started his cultivation, Lin Sun no longer controlled his inner hatred and let the anger and fire boil and roar all over his body. Reason and calmness were replaced by unprecedented killing intent. Today, no matter what price he had to pay, he would kill the culprit behind the scenes. P.S. Ba Qi had 8 heads and 8 tails, and his original form was Yamata no Orochi in Japanese mythology. Coincidentally, today was the Martyrs' Memorial Day.